Yo, what up? All right, so I'm gonna go through every single image, except I think I'm missing 5 of Dominaria United. Look at all of the cards for the upcoming release. The release is in like 6 days at this point, or pre-release anyway. But if I'm currently streaming on Twitch, and if this goes on YouTube, because I don't know if I'm gonna do that or not, but if it does, I just gotta say at the beginning of this video, I don't know anything, okay? Like, I'm not an expert in cards. I don't know the best strategies. I don't know the current meta. I don't know any of that stuff. I'm coming back to Magic, trying to learn, you know, what's out there currently. So I'm gonna go through the cards. It's not something I normally do. I don't normally spoil, but I'm gonna go through and try and learn as much as I can for the pre-release events. That's the purpose of this. I'm gonna say random stuff that may or may not be accurate. Don't take anything I say as like, oh, this is a pro, this is anything like that. I don't know anything, okay? Here we go. I figured we should start with the lands because I think that's funny. But no, just to click through them, like these are the lands. I said when I first saw them, you know, some of the images are really cool. That's dope. They're shock lands or whatever. From what I understand, that's the term for it dealing damage when you choose a specific type of land or type of mana that the land produces. So shock lands, dope. These are all of them. There's a couple special ones like this. When it enters the battlefield, scry 1. Amazing. If you pay 1 and tap, you can create another mana of any color. That's, I think, really only good for, like, I'm really trying to splash like green, and I just haven't found a forest anywhere or any way I can make green mana. Okay, I'm gonna pay this just to get 1 or 2 creatures out, you know? That's what it seems like to me. Again, I could be wrong. There's a couple others. This gate enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or fewer other lands. So you really want to play it early, it seems like, or cheat away to untap it. And then you choose a basic land type. When it drops, it is the chosen type in addition to its other types, which is gate, I think. And the mana abilities cast 1 life. So it's just like the others. It's just, it could be anything. There's also these lands where they just enter the battlefield tap no matter what. So that's the difference between the rare and the common. I think there's one more. Whoops. Okay, that was it. All right, cool. We did it. I'm using this infrared view thing. From what I hear, it's one of the best ones, but I don't know for sure. What should we go to in order? Black, I guess. Phyrexian Warhorse. So this is a random order, by the way, of the cards. It's not even alphabetical, but I wanted to randomize it so that I didn't sort of, like, it could be anything, right? You could go watch them in order somewhere else, or you could look at a list somewhere else, but I don't know anything, so I might as well learn in random order. And there's a lot of Phyrexian stuff, it seems like. I don't know if that's the plane we're on or whatever, but from what I understood, Phyrexian meant you pay life in order to cast it. Like, you don't have to, but you can. And none of them that I saw had Phyrexian mana, so maybe Phyrexian has another set of stuff or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, it's got a kicker. You could pay 1 additional planes, so you are in 2 colors, or maybe you have the land that gives you any color you want. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create a white soldier token, pay 1 and sacrifice another creature, so like that token, and it gets +2/+1 until the end of turn. Seems dope. Braids is apparently amazing. In the past, I think one of the cards that says braids has been banned. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. If you do, each opponent may sacrifice a permanent that shares a card type with it. So like Nightmare, or what was this? Horse. Or card type, I don't know. Maybe that means enchantment. For each opponent who doesn't, that player loses 2 life and you draw a card. So either they sacrifice something, you may sacrifice an, oh, it says, okay, I'm reading it again. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. If you do, each opponent may sacrifice or you draw a card. So I guess if you make a bunch of tokens, you could do this to artifacts or creatures or something. Toxic Abomination, another Phyrexian zombie this time. When it enters the battlefield, you lose 2 life. It's a 3/2 for 2. A 1 cost sorcery. As an additional cost, sacrifice a creature to destroy a creature. Seems good. Whenever a creature you control dies, scry 1. I guess so. I mean, it gives you a little bit of value for your dead card, right? Evolved Sleeper. That seems kind of pecky and scary. For 1, it becomes a human cleric with base power and toughness of 2/2. If Evolved Sleeper is a cleric, put a death touch counter on it for 2, and it becomes a human cleric with base power 3/3. If it is a Phyrexian, oh, okay, so here it's just becoming a human cleric, here it's becoming Phyrexian human. Put a 1/1 counter on it, so then it would be a 4/4. Then you draw a card and lose a life. Seems good. So this is your turn 1. Or turn 2, maybe. These 2, turn 3, turn 4, maybe. Something like that. The Planeswalker. Apparently this is going to be amazing. I'm not really sure, but they're putting it on like the front of their arena stuff. Liliana of the Veil. Each player discards a card. Then target player sacrifices a creature for -2. And for 6 loyalty, separate all permanents. Target player controls it to 2 piles. That player sacrifices all permanents in the pile of their choice. All permanents. So enchantments, artifacts. I think that includes, does that include land? That seems OP if it includes land. I guess I'll have to find out. Yeah, the ability to like make the choice really difficult seems good. Monstrous Warleech, kicker of a blue mana. So it's interesting. I think that a lot of these cards would normally be, in the past, I feel like, just multicolored cards, but they're just like black with another color on them. As it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, mill 4 cards. The leech's power and toughness are equal to the highest mana value among cards in your graveyard. So it could be a 2/2 if it's early in the game, or it could be like a 6/6. Seems good. Got a weird thing on the top of it. Is like a lobster riding it or something. Phyrexian Rager. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card and lose a life. So I guess what they did was they forced you to pay mana, but they put the Phyrexian thing in to losing life when you bring them up, because that's what happened with the other one, the horse. The Raven Man. Okay, Medivh, got it. Human Wizard. At the beginning of each end step, if a player discarded a card this turn, create a 1/1 Blackbird token. If a player, so you or them, this creature can't block, okay. 3 and a swamp to tap. Each opponent discards a card. Okay, forced hand exclusion, I guess, or reduction. Skeleton Warrior, Cult Conscript enters tapped. Oh, 2/1 for 1. Return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only if a non-skeleton creature died under your control. Cool. Keeps coming back. Writhing Necromass. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your graveyard, so it doesn't count tokens, but at 7, you know, hopefully there would be a couple in your graveyard by the time you'd want to cast this 5/5, so it might be 5 or maybe 6 total, but it's got Death Touch too. Interesting. Sheoldred. I think this card's going to be cool too. 4 but 2 of them are swamps. Death Touch, whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life. Whenever an opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. So you just let this sucker sit there, just to gain a little bit of life. At turn 4, they go into their turn 5, right? They lose 2 life, and then it's your turn. You gain 2 life on turn 5. Yeah, seems good. Hopefully by, well, I don't know, turn 4, they might still be holding removal, right? That's kind of dangerous, maybe. I don't think you should wait. Like, it seems good to play, but also they might be holding mana for turns 4 or 5, or not mana, but removal and mana, I guess, for these turns. So that's kind of dangerous. Tribute to Urbog. Kicker, again, the blue, and a 1 additional mana of any color. Target creature gets -2/-2 until the end of turn. If the spell is kicked, that creature gets an additional -1/-1 until the end of turn for each instant and sorcery in your graveyard. So in theory, for 4, if you've played, I don't know, 4 instants at this point, you could do -6/-6, right? For 4. That's really expensive, but it gives you options, right? At least -2/-2 for 2. Menace. I do like Menace. I originally didn't care that much for it, but recently I've turned to Menace. I think it's one of the best evasion kind of things. Maybe even better than flying to me. I don't know. I do like flying though. Or just, you know, forest walk. Anyway, Menace, your opponent can't gain life, like, at all. That's dope. So if you're playing a mirror to this black deck and they have that thing where they draw cards and gain life, now they can't. And for 2 additional, Knight of Dusk's Shadow gets +1/+1 till the end of turn. Defiler of Flesh is a 4. It's got Menace also, sick. As an additional cost to cast black permanent spells, you may pay 2 life. Those spells cost 1 swamp less to cast if you pay life this way. This effect reduces only the amount of black mana you pay. Whenever you cast a black permanent spell, target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains Menace until the end of turn. So this has a lot of utility, it seems like. You drop this turn 4 and you're like, all right, I'm going to pay 2 life to bring it in. Oh, wait, no. As an additional cost to cast other black spells, so not this one, you may pay 2 life and those cost 1 less. So this gives that Phyrexian mana idea, it seems like, 2 cards, what I talked about earlier. You're just trading out 1 swamp for the Phyrexian mana of 2. And then whenever you cast a black permanent spell, target creature you control gets +1/+1. All right. Shadow of Prophecy. Domain, which I've never heard of if it is not new. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. So, all right. I'm playing Swamp and maybe the island, yeah, for this or something. Put up to 2 of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. You lose 2 life. Very Phyrexian. Sheoldred's Restoration. Kicker, again, planes, and 2. Return target creature card from your graveyard directly to the battlefield. If this spell was kicked, you gain life equal to that card's mana value. Otherwise, you lose that much life. Ooh, okay, so you can pay mana plus, or you can pay life plus the mana in order to bring a creature back, or you can kick it to not have to do that and gain life instead. I don't know if that's strong. Flying for 1. It's just a bug, and it gains Death Touch for an additional swamp. Cut down. Destroy target creature with total power and toughness 5 or less. 5 or less. So that counts the big creatures we've seen so far. Singir, which isn't it missing the U? Isn't it supposed to be Singuir? Or no, that's Sanguir. Sangier without saying all the letters. Connoisseur for 5. It's a flying. Whenever one or more creatures die, put a +1/+1 counter on it. This ability triggers once each turn. Okay, so it doesn't matter how many creatures die. That's why it's not amazing. It's just uncommon. So just whenever they die. So in combat, boom. If you cast removal in the same turn, it doesn't count. So that sucks. Shadowrite Priest. Other clerics you control get +1/+1. Alright, this is for the cleric decks. For 5, sacrifice another cleric, search your library for a black creature card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. Okay. I saw a game recently with like really old school clerics. This would fit in perfectly, I think. For 5, you can play something directly to the battlefield. Well, I guess you're not playing it, so it can't be countered. So that's pretty OP, actually. Urbog Repossession, 1, and green +1 kicker. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. You gain 2 life. If the spell is kicked, return another target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Could be a creature, could be an artifact, could be an enchantment. That seems good. Extinguish the light. Or destroy target creature or planeswalker. If its mana value was 3 or less, you gain 3 life. If it's mana value, so it could be like a 2/2 for 2 that somebody buffed up to like 18/18 or something, but you still gain the life if that's cool. All right, cool. Balduvian Atrocity, kicker of red for 3 and menace. That's dope. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, oh man, kicker's really hardcore on all these cards. Return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste, and then sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Okay. So you bring something back to attack along with this, maybe. Oh no, this doesn't have, interesting. So you just bring it back, but this creature doesn't have haste, so the other one does. That is brought back. So you would attack with it. Okay. Aggressive Sabotage. Look at this art. What the heck? This goblin's like about to stab. What is that thing? Is that a head or like a bug or what? I don't know. I guess it's part of whatever this beast is. There's a lot of like Meccano stuff happening. Kicker of red for 3. It's a sorcery. Target player discards 2 cards. If it was kicked, deal 3 damage. Alright, cool. Squeeze orders basically came down to attack the squishy parts. Alright, cool. That's dope. Squeeze an old flavor character, right? Pretty sure. Eerie Soul Tender. When it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. 3 cards, okay. 4 plus a swamp. Exile this card from your graveyard. Oh, from your graveyard to return another target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Alright, cool. That's really expensive, but I guess. A 3/1 for 3, and it mills. Then it dies, and you can bring something from the graveyard to your hand. Oh, I don't know. That doesn't seem that good. It's so expensive. I would rather use the cleric, right? Sacrifice another cleric. Search the library. Oh, so this is from the library. The other one's from the graveyard. What's that? Oh, I broke. Okay. My arrow button came off. Cool. Blight Pile. Another Phyrexian thing. Defender. So it's a wall. Each opponent loses X life, where X is the number of creatures with Defender you control. Interesting. So it's kind of like just a mana sink where you can get a little value from it. Okay. Flying for 4, a 2/2 for 4, but you can buff it to give it +1/+1. That doesn't seem that good. I mean, I get that it's flying and that you can buff it, but I don't know. Drag to the bottom must be a removal. Each creature gets -X/-X until the end of turn, where X is 1 plus the number of basic land types among lands you control. Each creature, so it's every creature on the board. This is like a goblin remover, a swarm remover, army remover. Cool. Another wall, interesting. For 3, defender, and for an additional 3, you can sacrifice a creature to gain 1 life and draw a card every turn if you want. A 2/4. This one seems better than the other one, I think. Battle Rage Blessing for 2. Target creature gains Death Touch and indestructible until the end of turn. Oh, that's messed up. Since when is it cheating to give one side an unfair advantage? Yeah, exactly. Braids' Frightful Return. Unfortunately, I can't see the opposite side of this card. I didn't think that through, but whatever. Read ahead. Choose a chapter and start with that many lore counters. Add 1 after your draw step. Skipped chapters don't trigger. Sacrifice after 3. What? This is a saga where you get to go to the end if you want? Is that new? Okay, interesting. So the first one, you could sacrifice a creature. If you do, opponent discards a card or multiple opponents. For 2, you could return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. So maybe it's something that has a battlefield trigger and you kill it on this one and then you bring it back to your hand for this one so you can play it again. And then for the third one, target opponent may sacrifice a non-land, non-token permanent. If they don't, they lose 2 life and you draw a card. All right, cool. This doesn't seem that powerful, but the read ahead part seems interesting. You can just choose to return a creature for 3. So that's cool. When Splatter Goblin dies, target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1. So this is the Shambler one or whatever that is on Arena right now in Standard, but it's got an additional 1 and it's a 2/1. Cool. Very basic, but seems, you know, sort of like a filler card or whatever. Kicker for a green. If the spell was kicked, put a 1/1 counter on a target creature you control. Or on a creature you control. I don't know why I said target. That's weird. All creatures get -2/-2 until the end of turn. Oh, snap. All creatures get -2/-2. How is this not drag to the... Or what was it? Drag to the bottom. It's land types. Okay. So this is a specific number and that one was land types. Got it. Pilfer. I like this art. I like this. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it, and they discard that card. This is super good. Just knowing what the opponent has is so good, and then forcing them to lose something is so good. Cruelty of Gix. This one also says read ahead to choose a chapter. What? This one's 5. The first counter says target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a creature or planeswalker, and that player discards it. All right. So it's the same as Pilfer, but just the beginning. You can then search on the second turn, search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, then shuffle and lose 3 life. Okay. I mean, pulling cards to your hand is super important. This could be a land you desperately need or a creature for some combo or something. And then for the third one, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control so you can take their creatures. I love this card. I love this card a lot. It's probably not super strong because when I like things, they're not very strong, but whatever. Dang it, this button. Stronghold Arena is an enchantment. Kicker, ooh, green and or white. What's up? Welcome to here. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life each time it was kicked. So kick it for a green and you kick it for a white to gain 6 life. Well, then you'd be in 3 colors too. So that's kind of, that makes me nervous personally, but whatever. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you may reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. If you do, lose life equal to its mana value. Ooh. You could lose a lot of mana or a lot of life there really fast. Unless you're playing smaller cards. Reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand if you do. Okay, so I mean, land is free, right? So you might just use it to snag a land. It's basically like scrying without the getting rid of it part. What the heck? I guess that's all of the cards. I mean, I'll give you an opinion, but I don't know anything about any cards or junk. I'm not like an expert. I'm just guessing. I'm mostly just reading them so that I know what the cards are going to be in the future. That was apparently the end of black. I don't know how to get out. Oh, okay, cool. Sarah Paragon. Is that the angel or whatever? Yeah, this one. Flying, once during each of your turns, you may play a land from your graveyard or cast a permanent spell with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard. If you do, it gains when this permanent is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, exile it and gain 2 life. Yeah, so basically, it just allows you to play cards you've already played, right? Or that you milled. So if you're playing it with the black cards, then you're milling some cards and you can still have value on whatever you've played. But let's say you cast like one of the black cards is like death or whatever, you know, it's like 2 swamps and colorless, and you exile something or kill a creature, whatever it actually does, I can't think of it. Then it goes to your graveyard. Oh no, this actually wouldn't apply to that. Okay, that sucks. It's a permanent spell. Oh, that sucks. Okay, so like, yeah, I guess it's for mill decks, right? Like that's the main focus. Or if someone removes like an enchantment or saga or something that you really like, you can bring it back. So I mean, it definitely has a ton of value. Like it's definitely a good card, but it doesn't work the way I initially thought it did. But yeah, I think it's good. Clearly everyone else thinks it's good too if it's worth 20 bucks without it even being out yet. Plus it's got flying. It's a 3/4 flying, so it's good on its own, but the reason it's mythic is because, you know, you're playing spells from your graveyard, which is always OP. And you gain life too, which is just even added onto it. Insane. I don't play a lot of black, but it would definitely be good in black. Or maybe white, blue. You know what I mean? So just... Elias Ilkor, it looks like. Multicolor, death touch. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain a life, which is dope. Whenever another creature you control dies, your opponent loses a life. Yeah, like in like you said, it's cleric, so the other clerics are definitely going to synergize with it. But yeah, being able to kill tokens, little soldiers, any of that stuff for sacrifice, like the cleric sacrifice of another cleric token or something like that, this adds value to it for sure. Again, I don't play a lot of black, nor do I know very much, but it seems synergistic, you know. It also seems kind of easy to remove. I've only looked at black so far in the lands, haha, but you know, a lot of the black removal is two health would be easy. 2 toughness, not health, I guess, would be kind of easy to remove. But would someone use it on this? Probably not. It would be more like your threat that sits there and they don't attack with their 5/5 because you've got a death touch 2/2, right? So you hold them hostage, and then since it's sitting there and you've kind of paused the board from gaining or losing, you know, with them, then you have the ability to earn more life and just ping them for a little life. Three colors is a little much for me. When I stopped playing Magic back in the day, it was Dragons of Tarkir and Fate Reforged and junk, so that was all like supposed to be 3 color, and that's super dope. And I drafted and played 3 color, but I would prefer to do 2 color or mono personally. It's just easier for me to like predict, you know. But I really only draft also, so yeah. In draft, I would say that this has maybe less. Well, no, it's probably more valuable. It's got death touch, and it gives you a little life. Let's see, draft on this one 4. Yeah, this would be pretty strong in draft, I think. Well, it's clearly strong anywhere, but. I think that the Sarah Paragon obviously super strong, and then the what's it called, Elias Ilkor, definitely not as strong, but I could see how it has value. I think the soldiers kind of concept for white, and even like I said, Fate Reforged times the white black soldiers where you would create a bunch of tokens and stuff and then buff them with bolster or something like that would be super good here. Clerics, like you said. Yeah. Just gonna pull this up here in case I need to look up more junk. Blue? Ah, the counter. So speaking of counters, I learned recently from someone else watching videos of some junk that like the original counter spell is the top that Magic wants to have, and so every other counter spell, for example, will be lesser than that. So it's funny that this one is just 2, right? But it's only creature spells. Like, ah, dang. You could counter the most OP creature in the world, but someone could pay 1 and, you know, burn you for 2 and you couldn't even stop it. So funny. Also, the image looks really cool. I like this kind of mirrory look. Bink. Oh, look, a giant lobster. Target creature you control gets +1/+1 and hexproof until the end of turn, and untap it. I mean, for 1, that seems decent, I guess, but it doesn't really remove anything. It just allows you to do vigilance and +1/+1. Well, I guess hexproof. I would rather have hexproof on the creature, but I guess this is common, so that's fine. Djinn of the Fountain. Yeah, true, exactly. Like, oh, hey, I have the Paragon. Oh no, what are you gonna do? Haha. Because you can't counter it from, let me make sure. Let's see the exact wording. Well, I guess you do cast a permanent spell with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard. So you are technically casting the creature, so they could counter it again, I guess, when you bring it back from the graveyard with Sarah Paragon. Because it doesn't say put the permanent spell or put the permanent back onto your field or anything. It says you cast it again, but I don't think that's gonna matter. It's still super strong. This Jin is 6 for a 4/4. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, which blue's doing all the time, choose one. So either it gets 1/1 till the end of turn, or you exile it and return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Yeah, it would. Why would you pay 2 cards to counter something twice from the graveyard? Like, that would be awful for the person countering. The card advantage there would be significant. So yeah, like, definitely Sarah Paragon's amazing. Oh, at the bottom of this card it says Scry 1, so I guess you could choose the Scry. Personally, I don't really like the concept of exiling something and then returning it under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. This is something that I feel like this set has a lot, even though I've only looked at like 7 cards or something from it before this video. Like, in my opinion, when you exile something, it goes out into the Formless Void and doesn't exist anymore. So either the card should say something like you exile, for example, a sorcery to exile all creatures, and you want to save one, so one of the creatures comes back from exile, but the concept is like you save it before it goes into exile, the Formless Void. But exile clearly doesn't mean that. It means like it's removed from the game, but not really, because you can cast things from exile and you can bring things back from exile and all of that junk. So I just don't really like it, but it's fine. It's fine. Dang it, this button keeps coming off of my keyboard. Uh-oh, I broke it. What? I don't want to go back. All right. Volshi or Volsh? Tide Turner? A merfolk. I know people love merfolks. Tap to add 1 mana. Perfect. Spend this mana only to cast an instant or sorcery spell or a kicked spell. We saw a bunch of kickers in black that had islands, so that's pretty dope. Common, but still good. I mean, not super good. A 1/3 for 2 that adds mana is good though, you know? Yeah, the phases out concept for like exile and junk. Like, there's that ninja or whatever planeswalker, right? That you play it, it does its loyalty stuff, and then it phases out. It can't be attacked, but it also has no abilities. And then on the next turn, it phases back in, right? Yeah, I think that's better as a concept, but I think they're just trying to keep, you know, like the least amount of terms possible. So they say exile, because if they don't, then they've got phasing, and then they've got all sorts of junk, you know? Pirates, yay! I like pirates. I think it would be cool to have like a, not like an all human sort of set or whatever, but like more down to reality kind of thing, where it's like a bunch of pirates from all the different colors are trying to swarm, and then there's like you know, vagabonds and all that stuff, but it doesn't really fit with black, how it needs zombies and undeath and all of that stuff. It just doesn't fit. But I think that would be really cool. Like the people who make like tribe decks that are like pirate and stuff, I think that's dope. And it's got flying. When it dies, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. This also works with Sarah Paragon. If you're playing like white blue, then you've got 2 creatures with flying. Hooray. But also it just gives you another target. I think the graveyards are going to be really important in this set. But it is 4 and 2 of them are islands. Rona's Vortex. Kicker of 2. Here we are with Kicker again. This one's black and 2 mana. Sorry, 3 total. 2 and a swamp. Return target creature or planeswalker you don't control to its owner's hand, so you bounce it. If this spell was kicked, put that permanent on the bottom of its owner's library. Oh, snap. A card that sacks treasures to create pirates. That's so good. And there should definitely, if there aren't already, there might be, but like pirates that generate treasure, or like flavor cards where you deal damage and you create treasure, so that you could like use it all synergistically to create treasures and then bring in pirates, and then those pirates create more treasure because, you know, whatever. Oh, that'd be cool. That's a good idea. Silver Scrutiny, even though it's blue. You may cast Silver Scrutiny as though it had flash if X, okay, is 3 or less to draw X cards. Ooh, snap. What? Wow. Okay. This is so powerful, right? Like the ability to draw 3 cards at any time? What? Like you leave, well, I guess you'd have to leave 5 mana open, but you leave 5 mana open, and maybe you're gonna counterspell or some junk. Your opponent doesn't do anything near like what you thought they would. Second main, you freaking draw 3 cards, and then it becomes your turn. You draw another one. Your card advantage is huge. This seems like a really good card. Am I wrong? Okay, well, TCG player doesn't think it's amazing, but I do. I think if they made a like sacking treasure kind of pirate, it would be more like maybe it's like a 5/3 pirate boss or something, and it's got two booty counters on it, right? And at the beginning of your turn, you either remove a booty counter or you can sacrifice a treasure. That's probably what it would look like. So that, and then if your turn begins and you don't have any counters on it, it has to be put into your graveyard. Maybe something like that. I don't know if that's too weak. I don't know. But that way, you know, it stays around for a while no matter what. And then also, it stays even longer if you're generating treasures. That'd be cool. Dang it. There we go. Impede Momentum for 2. Tap target creature and put 3 stun counters on it. Never heard of a stun counter. If a permanent with a stun counter would become untapped, remove one from it instead. Wow. Scry one. Okay, cool. I think this card's amazing. But actually, when I think about it, So there's a card from back in the day called Singing Bell Strike, but there's obviously different versions of it. It costs the exact same amount. And what happened was you would just enchant a creature and it would become tapped, right? And it wouldn't untap. But you could remove the enchantment. This, you can't remove the enchantment, but it's only tapped for 3 turns. I wonder if you could use whatever that interaction is where you increase counters. I would assume you can increase this one. Proliferate or some junk? I don't know. Tolarian Terror. 7 for 5/5. It costs 1 less for each instant or sorcery card in your graveyard. Of course, by turn 5, hopefully you've cast a couple of them. So it should... It might cost 5 or 6, I guess, when people actually play this instead of 7. I would hope 4 or 5, because that would be cool. But I mean, it's not that good of a card. But it also has Ward 2, which is dope. Haughty Jin. Flying, its power and toughness is equal to the instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less. So I guess if you were running 3 colors and you were doing black and milling, and then white, so you could have your Sarah Angel thing, you could bring this in, and it would have a bunch of milled cards, and then you could also play those cards with your Angel, but that might be pushing it too hard. It does make instants and sorceries cheaper though, so that's dope. And it's only 3, so I mean, it could be a 3/4 for 3. That's good. Negate. Counter target non-creature spell. So instead of having 3 mana counter target spell, we have counter target non-creature spells and counter target creature spells. Interesting. Sarah is only permanents. Oh, you're right. You're right. Dang, I keep forgetting. I'm gonna mess that up, man. Oh man, I'm gonna mess that up. I'm going to some pre-release events. I hope it is relevant, and I hope I do get a Sarah, because I think it's a good card, but I'll mess it up. Dang it. That's why I'm going through the cards, though, so that I can learn and junk ahead of time. Timely Interference, 1, but there's also the kicker of red in 1. Target creature gets -1/-0 until the end of turn. If it was kicked, that creature blocks this turn if able. Oh, that's cool. And you draw a card. So this is basically a 1 mana cycle at the very base, and then also -1, -0 at the instant speed. I guess it's okay, but I would probably rather have just a counter spell. I really like counter spells, personally. Combat Research for 1, enchant a creature. It has, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Wonderful. As long as enchanted creature is legendary, it gets +1/+1 and has Ward 1. That's sick. 2 for a human wizard that looks like Jaina, kinda. I don't know if Jaina's ever worn blue like this, though. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player may draw an additional card. Each player. If they do, spells they cast cost 2 more to cast. This is definitely good. Oh, I don't know. That seems so chancy, like allowing someone to draw additional cards. Since I already have it open, I'm gonna ask the internet how much this will be. $2? I don't know. Just makes me nervous, you know? Haunting Figment. For 2, Vigilance. It can't be blocked as long as you've cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn. I mean, that's very synergistic with blue. It's got Vigilance. It doesn't fly, though. It seems like a ghost, but I guess it doesn't fly. They can't put everything on it. Bodalion. Never seen that word, I don't think. Hex Catcher. Flash. Flash creatures are a little confusing to me, but I mean, I understand. Just seems weird. Other merfolk you control get +1/+1. Sacrifice a merfolk. Counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 1. Huh. So it's their turn. They're casting some burn spell or some junk. I can flash in this Murloc. Or Merfolk, not Murloc. Flash in this Merfolk, and then since I don't have to tap it, it doesn't matter if it has Summoning Sickness or whatever. I can immediately sacrifice another Merfolk to counter a spell. Or counter that spell. Unless its controller pays 1. So I guess that's very situational. Okay, cool. I mean, it's not expensive, but it is a 1/1. I don't know enough about all the Merfolk cards to say like, oh yeah, buffing Merfolk, dang it, is amazing or not. I assume it's just like a different tribe. Impulse, instant speed for 2. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So this is definitely the case of leaving 2 mana open, waiting to see if you need to counterspell something. Oh, I didn't need to, so on their turn, I'm going to draw a card. Bodalion Mindsinger. Another Merfolk. Oh, this one has the dual kicker thing again. Ah, it's so weird. It enters the battlefield with 2 1/1 counters on it for each time it was kicked. When it enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature with power less than Mindsinger's power for as long as you control Bodalion Mindsinger. This is my card. That's what's up. I love taking other people's creatures and messing with them because everyone's always got better strategies and better cards than me. So play out your strategy all you want. I'll just use your creatures when I can. That's my jam. I like this card a lot. I would like to have this card. Thank you. Also it works. So I don't really know a lot about Commander, but I made a Commander deck based on some person that starts with S that I can't think of. Anyway, what they do is when they attack, you gain control of a creature with power less than theirs. But their colors are red, green, and blue. This actually works so well for it. Wow, amazing. What a time. I didn't know. And it's only 3. Ah, sick. Well, I guess it could be up to 7. That's a little expensive for it, but it allows you to take a 4/4 away for as long as you have this. Wow. Okay, cool. Micromancer. What a good name. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an instant or sorcery card with mana value 1. Okay. Reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. Mana value 1. So like this. Enchant creature or this. Draw a card. I don't know if that's good. You're searching for 1 cost instants or sorceries? I don't know if that's good. But I guess it allows you to pull from your deck, so whatever. For 3, this spell costs 1 island less to cast. If an opponent casts 2 or more spells this turn, counter target spell. That's sick. That is sick. I like that. Solarian Geyser, kicker of planes. For 3, return target creature to its owner's hand. Draw a card. If it was kicked, you also gain 3 life. Just a little added value for 1 extra mana. Phyrexian Sphinx, the Defiler of Dreams, for 5. It is flying. As an additional cost to cast blue permanent spells, you may pay 2 life. Cast all blue permanent spells, you may pay 2 life. Okay, interesting. Those spells cost 1 island less to cast if you pay life this way. This effect, oh, so it's a mirror sort of the blue, was it or the black Sphinx? I think it was a Sphinx, right? Oh, whoops. Whenever you cast a blue permanent spell, draw a card. So that part is sick. Spell Sphinx. Oh, that didn't work. I think there is another Phyrexian card just like this. I don't know if it's a Sphinx or not, in black. I'm going the wrong way. Tidepool Turtle. Scry 1, 4/3, and it's a 2/5 4/4. I mean, it's not great. It's a common card. Another Wall, Defender. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you may draw a card. If you do, discard. Okay, cool. Just a wall. Phyrexian Espionage. I bet there's life here. Kicker of 2. Draw 2 cards. If this spell was kicked, an opponent discards a card. There's no life here. What does Phyrexian even mean? Draw 2 cards for 3. All right. That's better value than that other draw, but you can't boost this higher than 2. Soaring Drake, flying, 2/3 for 3. This is very similar to like my old school cards back in the day from like 6th edition or whatever, back when I was learning. Or I guess before 6th. Pixie Illusionist for 1, kicker of 4, flying. If it was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it, and you can tap it. Target land you control becomes the basic land type of your choice. A freaking mana control right there. 5 mana for a flying 3/3. That doesn't seem good. Sphinx of Clear Skies, another Sphinx. Flying Ward 2 for 5. Domain. When it deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of basic land types among the lands you control. An opponent separates those cards into 2 piles. Put 1 pile into your hand, the other into your graveyard. Again, a similar card to the black one. So this one also has read ahead for the chapters. Why would you do the second one? I guess we'll find out. Another... Yo, welcome to Learn Something. Learn the future Sunday. Learn. Yes, I am learning the cards right now. What's up? They come out next weekend, so I want to learn the cards now. For the first and second, what are they called? Lore counters. Another target non-land permanent phases out. So here we have phasing. It can't phase in for as long as you control the phasing of Zalfir. Oh, this is like a counter for phasing stuff out. So you do it on the first one, like a creature maybe, and then the next one you do like an enchantment. And then on the third one, destroy all creatures. For each creature destroyed this way, its controller creates a 2/2 black Phyrexian creature token. What? Oh my gosh. Can you imagine, like... Wait, hold on. So... for this, you target, say, a creature, right? And then for the next counter, you target another creature. if they're both yours, for example, when this thing hits its third and destroys all creatures, then it goes away, right? Like it goes into your graveyard or whatever. Does that mean that the two then come back from being phased out, so they didn't get destroyed? Is that how that works? Is this thing amazing? The phasing of 179. So clearly not amazing, but I bet that's how it works. I bet you could control which of your cards, which of your creatures you save, or even, yeah, I guess it would be creatures if you wanted to save something. I could be wrong though. It might not work that way. Protect the Negotiators, always important. For 2 and a kicker of an additional. If the spell is kicked, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 1 for each creature you control. Yo, that's dope. That's dope. Because that's counter any target spell. Like, you could do it on turn 2, and they only have 2 mana. Boom. Countered. Any spell. That's sick. Bounding the Third Path. Another saga. So I wonder if each color has a saga. Speaking of colors, remind me to say an observation. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value 1 or 2 from your hand without paying its mana cost. What? So you cast this, then you can cast another spell without paying its mana cost. In the second one, target player mills 4 cards. You could choose yours or theirs. The third one, exile target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard, copy it, and you may cast the copy. Exile target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard, copy it, and you may cast it. I don't know, that seems... So like you mill your own stuff, you happen to get great sorcery or instant or something, you may cast it. It doesn't say it ever goes away, so it just sits there ready for you to be cast, right? Huh. Yeah, okay, cool. It doesn't say like you may cast it until the end of your next turn or anything. It's just you may cast it. That's cool. Vesuvian Duplimancy. This is the card I thought had a great name. Whenever you cast a spell that targets only one single artifact or creature you control, create a token that's the exact copy of that artifact or creature, except it's not legendary. I think that's amazing, personally, but the internet might disagree. The internet knows way more than me, so if you want to know some junk, go look it up or listen to someone else's video that is this exact same thing. When I was checking to make sure that, you know, people actually did this, which of course they do, but whatever, I saw one in Spanish, and they had like this amazing background, and like they were on screen and all that stuff, showing off the cards and talking about it and stuff, and I was like, wow, that's a way better stream than mine is. And then I did this anyway because I'm just trying to teach myself. Coral Colony for 2. It is another wall, and then 2 and tap it. Player mills X cards, where X is the number of creatures you control with Defender. Seems common. Boda Sea Scavenger. Domain. This is the main new word, I guess. Kicker they're bringing back, of course. I don't know if domain has ever existed, but it's definitely types of land or whatever junk. Whenever Voda Sea Scavenger enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. You may put one of those cards on top of your library. Put the rest on the bottom in any order. In a random order. Oh, okay. Not any order. How common of you. Battlewing Mystic, Bird Wizard. What a cool bird wizard. I had this project that I was working on with like bird stuff. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It kind of looked like this though. Kicker of 1 red. Flying. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, discard your hand and draw 2 cards. Normally people would say, oh, that sucks, but since we're casting so much stuff from the graveyard, that might be good, especially if you only have 2 cards or 1 card even. If this is late game, you know. If it's early game, I would suggest you not do that. But late game, sure. Unless there's a card in your hand that's like, oh, when it goes to the graveyard, do something, or you can cast this from your graveyard or whatever, and then that's amazing. Like, you get to choose. Ah, perfect. Frost Fist Strider for 5. Ward 2. When it enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. Huh. These stun counters. I think those are new too. I've never heard of them. Weird. I like this art though. It seems very cool. Aether Channeler for 3. When it enters the battlefield, choose 1. Create a bird. Return a target non-land permanent to his owner's hand or draw a card. Gives you the option. I do like the options, although I feel like a lot of these cards where you get to choose 1 or choose 2 if you do something, they're kind of meh. You know, it gives you options, but based on the situation, but they're always kind of meh. Like, oh great, a 1/1 bird. Yeah, great. It's only good if you're gonna like sacrifice that bird, or they don't have flying, so you're just gonna hit them every time, or maybe you're doing ninjas, you know, so you're gonna ninjutsu something in. I don't know. Joint Exploration 2 and a possible kicker. Scry 2, then draw a card. If it was kicked, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Yo, that's OP. Okay, that's good. I like that. So that's the end of blue. All right, check this out. Here's what I learned. So it's a little small, a little hard to see. Downloads. So black has 38 new cards in Dominaria United. Blue, 38 new cards. Green, 38. Red, 38. White, 38. Didn't it used to be that, like, didn't it used to be more random? Like, oh, we're gonna focus, or we have this good idea, so we're gonna do more red cards or more black cards, and it doesn't really matter. But this set has 38 cards from each color, and then a bunch of random colorless or multicolor or whatever. I don't know if that's the case. Maybe they always do it where it's an even split, but I feel like that's not the case. Also, I could be wrong. I might be missing some cards, but I don't think so. I think it's 38 for each color. I feel like we're starting with something huge here. Defiler of Vigor. A Phyrexian Worm for 5. Worms have always been intense. Trample. I like green, by the way. I like blue and green. I feel like I'm better with, like, I don't know, white, green, or white, red, or something. But I like blue and green, personally. As an additional cost, to cast green permanent spells, you may pay 2 life. They're in the Phyrexian. Those spells cost 1 less, of course. Whenever you cast a green permanent spell, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Wow. Wow. Silverback Elder. Oh, this is one of the ones I looked at. It's got 5, 3 of them being forests. Whenever you cast a creature spell, so every time you cast a creature spell, you may destroy an artifact or enchantment, you may gain 4 life, or you may look at the top 5 cards of your library, put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped, put the rest onto the bottom of your library in a random order. I do believe that's called ramp. I could be wrong, but you're getting a whole lot of land there, and the art looks great, and the concept is great. There's no flavor text, which sucks, but I think this is a great card. Personally, I think this is a pretty card, so I like it just as much as this one, even though it probably sucks. A 3-cost 1/1 druid with Death Touch, but you can tap it to get additional mana of any color. So it's not like an elf that just makes green. It makes blue or black or white even. Although, who's playing white in this set? No, I hear white is the best, or possibly the best color for this set. Dink. Tail Swipe. What a great looking card. Although I hear people were against dinosaurs or something. I don't know. Anyway, choose target creature you control and target creature you don't control. If you cast a spell during your main phase, the creature you control gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. Then those creatures fight each other. Oh, you can... Yo, this is good removal. Obviously, you have to have a creature for removal, but I mean, one mana for the fight? I love the fight concept. I think that's dope. What a good card. Yavimaya Sojourner, a tree folk. This spell costs 1 less for each basic land type among lands you control. It's an 8 normally for 4/6. This spell costs 1 less each basic land type. So you're running 2 colors. This spell still costs 6. It's a 4/6. You're running 3. Okay, I don't know. I don't know if I like Domain. I feel like it's not that strong unless you're running a bunch of colors, and I just don't feel running a bunch of colors vibes with me personally. Quirion Beast Caller, 2 Dryad Warrior. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put a 1/1 counter on to the Beast Caller. When it dies, distribute X 1/1 counters among any number of target creatures you control, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on the Beast Caller. So you bring in 3 beasts, or 3 any creature, and it gets 1/1 counters up to 5. When it dies... So it's like the modular concept, but you get to choose where they go. Yeah, I guess it's just modular, right? Okay, cool. Elvish Hydromancer, kicker of 4, one of them being an island. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. That's super OP if you have like a Silverback Elder. It's not even legendary. So you just have 2 Silverback Elders, and then each time you get to choose. Well, that's a really expensive. I mean, it's more expensive than just playing another one, but I don't know. You get this card too. Whoops, where was it? You get this 3/2 as well. I mean, I guess it's okay. But if you've got that much mana, hopefully you're shooting for something much bigger than this. Barkweave Crusher, an elemental warrior. Enlist, haven't seen this before. As this creature attacks, you may tap a non-attacking creature you control without summoning sickness. So it could have attacked, but it didn't. When you do, add its power to this creature's until the end of turn. Yo, that's sick. I've never heard of Enlist, but that's dope. Yavimaya Iconoclast, kicker of 1, trample. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, it gets +1/+1 in haste. All right, seems basic. My cat says, "What's up?" Yeah, like a 3/2 for 2 that has trample no matter what. So it might get counters from something else or whatever. It might have something equipped to it, but you can give it haste and 1/1 until the end of turn. So I wonder if there are like red elf decks. Are there enough red elves to make an entire deck? Could you do like a red-green? I guess it would be a rush deck, right? Elves are normally pretty slim. Like I don't know. Of course you could make a red-green elf deck, like that's easy, but I wonder if there's enough to make it competitive and good. Bog Badger, what great art is this? It's got a kicker of 1. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, creatures you control gain menace until the end of turn. Sick. That's sick. Just the ability to give a bunch of stuff. Like, even if you give 3 things kicker and then attack with those 3 things, like, to block, you need 6 creatures because menace forces you to block with 2 or more creatures. So if they've only got 2 creatures, they can only block 1 thing, you know, and they're obviously going to pick the most powerful if it's a big enough threat, or they just let it whiff and then you've got a 3/3 on the board. But yeah, okay, I like this card and I like the art, more importantly. A Magnagoth, excuse me, Sentry. It's got reach, a 4/4 for 4. It's just here to counter flyers, right? That's its goal. Have we seen reach on any other cards? I think 1, maybe? Domain. For 4, until the end of turn, Root Walla gains +1/+1 for each basic land type among lands you control. Activate only once. So you're attacking with the 2/2 for 2. They do decide to block with a 3/3. You pay 4 on this turn because it's apparently turn 4, or maybe you've ramped up, but it's turn 4. You pay 4. You remove theirs, but you don't do any damage to them. It's kind of expensive, kind of meh for removal, kind of common though. Another Saga. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. I mean, that's dope. That's what you want. 2, create a 1/1 sap rolling creature token. That doesn't seem that good at all. And then 3, target creature you control gets +1 or +X and gains trample until the end of turn, where X is the number of basic lands. So you've got your 1/1 Saproling. You might buff it to 3/3, or you might buff it to 4/4 if you've got 3 types of land. I can't imagine someone playing this and they have, you know, all 5 types, but maybe. Is the gate that we looked at, let me look, what was the gate called? Is that a basic land? It's not, right? It says it's just a land, so it doesn't even count. I wonder. I'm gonna have to do research onto this domain thing because it doesn't seem that good, but it's everywhere. And I don't know why. I'm not smart enough to know yet, or I haven't played enough to know yet. Even though I played a long time, I haven't seen this specific mechanic. Here it is again. Herd Migration. Oh, it's a sorcery. Create a 3/3 green beast creature token for each basic land type among the lands you control. So for 7, you might create 2 3/3s or 3 3/3s. It seems like a mana sink late game, unless you happen to have more colors or it works some other way. So you might get 4 3/3s. That would be sick. Or for 2, you can discard it, search your library for a basic card, reveal a basic land card, reveal it, shuffle. Put it in your hand and shuffle, and gain 3 life. This would be terrible if it didn't have that. Slimefoot's Survey. Silly art. Domain, search your library for up to 2 land cards that each have basic land type. So you get a plains and you get a swamp, for example. Put them onto the battlefield tapped. Okay, that's OP, but for 5, I don't know. Then look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. Put up to 1 of them on top of your library and the rest on the bottom. So let's see, you've only gotten green and you're screwed. This is great. Like, being able to pull in your plains in your swamp, and then next turn you're going to play all your cards because you finally have the mana types you need. That's sick. But turn 5, if you already have a plains and you're missing a swamp, this is less valuable. And if you already have all 3 types that you're running in your 3-color team or deck or whatever, like, you gain mana, but it didn't fix as much as you needed to. Like, it's not as amazing then. It's still 2 lands, but you had to skip a turn basically for it. It makes your next turn super powerful though. Put up to one of them, because then you scry, right? And then you pull your next card and the rest go on the bottom. That's pretty cool. Llanowar Stalker. Hey, we got a Llanowar elf. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under control, it gets +1/+0 until the end of turn. Sick. 1/1 for 1 that you can boost a little bit. Too bad it doesn't make mana too. Oh well. If you spot one elf in Llanowar, it's likely there's another with a knife at your back. Okay, that's cool. I like that flavor. Elfheim Worm. 5/4 for 5 vigilance and trample. This is the type of card I'm most familiar with. Pretty basic. It's got 2 words on it. Vigilance and trample. Seems good. But very basic, very common, and probably not worth picking up. Unless you just need, like, to fill out your upper power level stuff while you're drafting. 3 for the 3/2 turtle with ward 2 and enlist. As it attacks, you may tap a non-attacking creature you control without summoning sickness. So even if it has haste, it doesn't have summoning sickness, right? So you don't want to throw away your 1/1 or your 2/2 goblin because you're going to use it for some reason, or it's like a legendary and it has some other abilities or some junk. You just enlist it. Perfect. Then you're attacking with a 5/2. Bite down. So cool. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. Interesting that this says or planeswalker. Like, the old types of this card, like way back, didn't say planeswalker. They just said creature. So this is definitely a planeswalker killer. Like, you don't even have to attack with it. You've got a 4/4 or something, and there's a planeswalker with 5 loyalty. You force it down to 1 with this, and then you can, like, swing 2 goblins at it and attack with your 4/4 at their face instead. Seems good. Floriferous Vine Wall, another wall. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 6 cards of your library. That's a lot of cards. You may reveal a land card and put it into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Except this wall is only 0/2. That's the downfall. All the other walls we've seen have had at least 4 toughness, right? Scout the Wilderness, kicker of 2, one of them being plains. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. If this spell was kicked, create 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. So you fix your mana a little bit. You grab your swamp that you're looking for, or your second plains, but you also kick it to create 2 blockers. I think that's okay. Llanowar Loam Speaker, perfect. Another Llanowar. Tap to add 1 mana of any color, which is OP. Tap, target land you control becomes a 3/3 elemental creature with haste until the end of turn. It's still a land. Activate only as a sorcery. This plus enlist is super OP. You don't want to attack and lose your land, right? Like, oh dang, you screwed my mana because I attacked. But since it has haste, you can enlist that 3 onto something else. I think that's super dope. Or you're gonna die. Wait, oh no. You're trying to threaten so that you can remove, right? When you attack, maybe? I don't know. The thing is, like, it's on your turn as a sorcery, so you can't do it on their turn. So that's not very good. If you could tap it on their turn, that would be sick. This might not be as good as I thought, but still 1 mana of any color is dope. Urborg, I thought it was Bog. Lurgoyf, kicker of island and or swamp. As it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards for each time it was kicked. Again, mill. Its power is equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard, and its toughness is equal to that number +1. Obviously, you want to mill a bunch, but it will cost you 4 in order to mill 6 cards along with this. Turn 2, if you play this, it might be a 0/1. You know, you got it out early and it's just like chilling there. All it is a little tiny blocker, but you could buff it up later on. Colossal Growth, kicker of 1 red, but it costs 2. Target creature gets +3/+3 until the end of turn. If it was kicked, that creature gets +4/+4 and gains trample and haste until the end of turn. I think this wording is bad. What it says is target creature gets +3/+3 until the end of turn. No matter what, it gets +3/+3. If this, okay, it does have the word instead. Okay, as long as this got instead and I skipped over it, that's great. This is not confusing. Cool. Haste and trample is super OP. The only thing that sucks is that haste, like, you can't surprise them, right? Like, if you play your 1/1 elves this turn, you can't attack with them unless you give them haste with this card and trample, or haste in some other way, but haste with this card, for example. And that's not as good because there's no surprise. The only surprise comes along if you I guess you would kick it if you needed that extra 1/1, but it's really just a 3/3 spell, probably most of the time, right? Threats undetected. Search your library for up to 4 creature cards with different powers and reveal them. An opponent chooses 2 of those. Shuffle those cards into your library and put the rest into your hand. Yo, that's sick. That's sick. It costs 3, but man. Imagine like pulling with different powers, so it can't be the same card. Oh, okay, so you got elves for mana, you got what would you pick that they might not go for on turn 3? It's tricky. Everything you show, well, I guess they might know your deck list already. Everything you show, though, and they choose not, means you don't have that in your hand, right? So this isn't as strong, but you might have another copy of it. But it's still cool that you get 2 creatures, you know? Nishoba Brawler, wait. With different power. I wonder if you could do Star as a power, like this card. Could you do 2 different ones where this one is, oh, this one's domain. What if the other one's creatures in your graveyard? That's 2 different powers in theory. Yeah, I think that would work because in your hand, this still has the power level equal to the number of basic lands. And in your hand, that other card does have that power equal to creatures. So I guess you could pick star cards for power. Cool. Anyway, this is a 2 trample. Its power is equal to the number of basic lands. Probably going to be 2 all the time. That's what it feels like to me. I feel like domain is almost always 2, sometimes 3. Again, I could be wrong. Snare Spinner, Reach. We finally got some more Reach. It blocks, or when it blocks a creature with flying, it gets +2/+0 until the end of turn, making it a 3/3. Sick. Vine Shaper Prodigy, a kicker of 1 and an island. For 2, when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom in any order. Drawing a card for 4. I guess that's good, especially if you just have the mana. So it's turn 4 and you're searching for something else. I guess that's good. Turn 2, you play it. It is nice to have options. Like I'm not saying like, oh, all these cards that have these options suck because they're not that strong. Like it's wonderful to have options. This gives you the option on turn 2 to play a 2/2. Perfect. You got an Elf Druid. Turn 4, you have all this mana. You also have the option of playing this card. Like if you have something else to play on turn 2, like the one that creates mana or whatever junk, this is amazing because you could play it on turn 3 and not kick it. And then on turn 4, play something else. But on turn 4, this gives you an option. It's just not that good. The options are kind of meh. It's a 2/2 for 2, or you draw a card for 4, you know? Eh. Wasn't there a blue card that allowed you to draw a card for 1 mana? It didn't give you a creature, but like, come on. For 5, Enlist, the mechanic I love so much. It can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. It can be blocked by 1 creature, so it's not Menace, but it can't be blocked with power 2 or less. So you can't line up an elf or a goblin or something in front of it. You gotta put a big boy in front of this line breaker Baloth. It's interesting that this, maybe it's pronounced Baloth. It's got riders on it, like, but not just, you know, a driver. It's not like a fighter kind of thing. It looks like there's a canopy. Maybe they're just hanging out on top of it, right? Interesting. Llanowar Green Widow. For 3, it's got Reach and Trample. A 3/4/3 with Reach and Trample seems good. And then for 7 plus a green mana, return Llanowar Green Widow from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains, if this permanent would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each basic land type you control. So for probably 6, you can bring it back. I guess that's okay. Like if you mill this creature, that kind of sucks. Like, because you'll only get to play it once. But having things in your graveyard, if you're in a mill deck that you can bring back, is great. But being able to play it for 3, oh man, and then, you know, the always threat of bringing it back in the future. Yeah, all right, that's cool. That's cool. And you might be able to bring it back if a card says like bring back a creature to your hand or to the graveyard or to the battlefield from your graveyard for mana 3 or less. This is a great target. Like a 4/3 Reach Trample, sick. Strength of the Coalition for 1. Kicker of 3, one of them being plants. Target creature you control gets +2/+2. If it was kicked, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. For 4, yo, that's great. I think this card's amazing because you affect all of your creatures for 4. It's turn 4. You attack with your 1/1, and you're gonna try and remove something, you know. But you also played something on. You played 1, 2, and 3. Right, so you've got 3 creatures, and you're going to remove one of their creatures with this card, but each of your creatures is going to get a +1/+1 counter on it. Sick. That's dope. It's not the greatest for 4, but it's still sick. The World Spell. For 7 mana, oh my gosh. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-saga permanent card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest in the bottom in any order, in a random order. 7 cards. I don't know about this. However, the third one, put up to 2 non-saga permanent cards from your hand onto the battlefield. Like, this is allowing you to draw cards that you think are going to really impact the game. Then on the third one, oh wait, you can read ahead. So in theory, you could pay 7 to play 2 non-saga permanent cards from your hand on the battlefield. If each one would cost like 5, this is a great value to just jump ahead to right here. You know what I mean? Wow. Okay, cool. Or you can draw the cards. Okay, this card's decent, I think. Let's see what it costs just to check if I'm right. The World Spell. $2.90 for a mythic rare. Okay, the internet doesn't agree with me, but I mean, you know, it's expensive. It's got value though. Territorial Marrow. I like this art, this image. It looks like tusks, or it looks like antlers instead of tusks, but they're tusks. That's sick. Its power and toughness are equal to twice the number of basic land types among lands you control. So it's 5 for possibly a 4/4, or a 6/6, or an 8/8, or even higher if somehow you manage that. Let's say this is in my commander deck that has 3, right? So it would be a 6/6 for 5. That seems good. I don't know if there are basic lands that are not the 5 basic lands, but maybe. Or maybe there's artifacts that make stuff into basic lands, but there's something else other than base. I don't know. That seems wrong, but maybe. Leaf Crowned Visionary. Other elves you control get +1/+1. Elves always hang out together. When you cast an elf spell, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card. Whoa, okay, that's sick. So turn 1, you play your elf that generates mana. Turn 2, you play this. So you've got 1 extra mana sitting. I wonder if this one counts. Whenever you cast an elf spell, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card. It enters the battlefield and then tap 1 to draw a card? Maybe? I don't know. I don't know if it works in that direction. Gaia's Might. Domain, target creature gets +1/+1 until the end of turn for each basic land type you control. It's gonna be 2 or 3 or maybe 4. It doesn't seem that good, but for 1, you know, sure, I guess. Mossbeard Ancient for 7. When it enters the battlefield, gain 5 life. I mean, it's a 7/7 for 7 with trample. It's okay, I guess. Tear Asunder. Yeah, you kill that Mechano worm kind of looking thing. You also scary looking beast. Anyway, kicker of 2, one of them being Swamp. Exile target artifact or enchantment. So the saga that they just played, you exile it, or it's an artifact that's part of a combo. If the spell was kicked, exile target non-land permanent instead. Oh, so it could be a creature if you kick it, or a planeswalker even if you kick it. That's cool. But I think a more, well, it gives you options again. It gives you options. I gotta focus on that. At least there's options, right? There are spells that only cost 3 to do the same thing. For example, 3, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. No planeswalkers, no creatures on the ground. So that sucks. This is a common card though. Like, come on. Like, come on, common, get it? All right, I'll be right back, and then we'll do red and white and the multicolors. All right. Maybe I should have done red first. It's the fastest color, right? This is another one of the cards I've seen ahead of time. Again, I've only seen a couple, but I think the art on this looks like I forgot to go look after I saw this. There's a scene in like Black Clover where this gigantic mechano kind of beast thing destroys either some or all of their guild house thing. It's like a giant, big, multi-story building, and this reminds me of that. I would say spoiler alert, but I don't even know if that's accurate, so it might occur in an anime. Anyway, for 2, you can choose one. You can destroy an artifact. You can destroy a creature with Defender, so the walls that we've looked at only. Or you can deal 1 damage to each creature your opponent controls. Is that really good? I don't know. Destroying artifacts, if you're fighting someone with artifacts, yeah, this is sick. You could destroy like a 4/4 vehicle. But they're not running artifacts. You could deal 1 damage to each creature. If they're not running like tokens, so what's the point? And it's sorcery. Or creatures with Defender. Are people really going to be busting out all these walls? I don't know. Walls existed way, way, way back when I learned how to play, and I feel like I haven't seen very many since then, so I could be wrong though. There might be a lot of Defender stuff out there that I don't know about. Balduvian Berserker. A core Berserker. I wonder if there's like a clan of cores. It's got enlist though, so that's cool. When it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. Okay, so let's see. Oh yeah, enlist says when you do, add its power to this creature until end of turn. So this is on 3. You attack on 4, right? If you're, I don't know, you play like a kind of lame 3/3 or something, but it's got haste, or even a 2/2, and you buff this up to 3/3 or 4/3, and then you attack, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna kill this. It deals its power to any target. You can remove another blocker or another creature or a planeswalker even, you know, if it's turn 4 maybe or something like that. That seems valuable. Only when it dies though. Enthralled to the pit. That's cool art and like the concept and stuff. Kicker of 3, one of them being Swamp. Gain control of target creature until the end of turn. Yay! Untap it, it gains haste. If the spell was kicked, sacrifice that creature at the beginning of the next end step. Oh my gosh, that's sick. That's what you want to do. Like, the goal when you steal creatures is always, because they're going to return most of the time, you want to find a way to sacrifice them, right? You want to like use the cleric or whatever in order to sacrifice something. But if the card does it for you for an additional 3, yeah, that's sick. Although it does cost 7 at that point to steal something and kill it. It's removal, but you also get to attack with it. This is a big threat, but I don't know how threatening it's going to be. Like, I'm trying to think about drafting. So on turn 4, you steal. Well, yeah, okay. So you can steal it on turn 4, or you can wait till turn 7 to take their bomb and kill it, but attack with it. I don't know. Maybe. It's a common card, so it can't be that powerful, but it seems all right. I would want to play with it, but I know that value-wise, it's probably not that good. The Ashino Branch Rider, kicker of 3 with a forest in there. But it's a 1/1 for 1 that has haste. If it was kicked, it enters with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. And for an additional 3, it gets +2/+0 until the end of turn. So in theory, hold on, let me look at it. Oh, that's 3. Okay, so turn 1, you play this. It's got haste. You hit him for 1. Boom. Haha. Turn 2, you play some other junk. Turn 3, you play this Berserker. Turn 4, you can attack with the Berserker, which has 3 toughness, and you can buff this to a 3/1, but not attack with it in order to keep it. And because of Enlist, you'll add 3 onto the Berserker, so it'll be a 4/3 that attacks. And if you kill that 4/3, it deals 4 damage to a target. That seems like some good kind of synergy stuff. I do like these cards that you can buff, because I've been playing the werewolf deck on Arena, just a very basic deck just to get spells done. But a lot of the time, if you don't tap your mana ahead of time, you don't cast something, you can threat like, oh, I'm attacking with the 1/1 wolf, but if you block it, I'm gonna buff it to 3/3, like, and then I remove your card, or maybe I won't, and it's like that constant like threat of the mana that's sitting open when you attack. I think that's great. Another Saga. There's gonna be 2, I assume, in this color. For 4, the Elder Dragon War deals 2 damage to each creature and opponent. This is a commander card, is it not? Deals 2 damage to each creature, so every creature on the board, and each opponent. For 2, oh man, for 2, this is too powerful. Come on, discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards. Hopefully you would want your cards to be valuable, but like, you've got 3 that aren't really gonna help you. They're like really weak cards. You had a whole hand of weak cards for some reason and you kept it on turn 4 or turn 5, I guess, because this would be, well, you could do it either one because you get to choose with these new Sagas. Yeah, and then on the 3rd token, create a 4/4 red dragon creature with flying. Perfect. I think this card's good. Let's think. For draft, it's Lobby removal for sure with the 2 damage to each creature. Hurler Cyclops. 1 to sacrifice another creature, and Hurler Cyclops deals damage to any target. Doesn't say you can't do it more than once. You could kill like a flyer or something with little goblin tokens. Reel of Possibility. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card and draw 2 cards for 2. That's okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yotia Declares War. The first one says create a 0/2 colorless Thopter artifact with flying named Ornithopter. Classic. For 2, tap any number of untapped artifacts you control. When you do, this deals that much damage to target creature or planeswalker. Any number of untapped artifacts. So we'll assume the Thopter is 1. Maybe you have another artifact or something. Maybe you could do 2. I can't imagine that you would do many more than that unless you're playing a full artifact deck that's like planned. And then on the 3rd one, 1 artifact you control becomes a creature with base power and toughness 4/4 until the end of turn. So, this doesn't seem that good. For 2, you basically, I mean, you could do removal on the 2nd one for 2. Or you could buff one of your artifacts to be a 4/4, but I mean, it's on your turn. It's a Saga. It's an enchantment. I don't know. This doesn't seem that good. Keldon Flame Sage. Hold on, wait. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. For 3, it's a 2/3. It has enlist, which it doesn't even give you the text, but we know what enlist does now. Whenever it attacks, look at the top X cards of your library where X is Keldon Flamesage's power. So that's why it has enlist, because you can use the power from something else. Where X is the where X is his power, you may exile an instant or sorcery card with mana value X or less from among them. So oh well, okay. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. You may cast the exile cost card without paying its mana cost. So let's take the example that I said of the one where you can buff it +2, right? So you buff it +2. This uses enlist, so it's a 3/1 that you enlist, right? It doesn't attack. This card becomes a 5/3 that you attack with. You can look at the top 5 cards of your library, then exile an instant or sorcery with mana value 5 or less from among them. No enchantments, no creatures, instants or sorceries, and then you can cast it without paying. Like, the free card is great, but I don't know if well, you don't have to, I guess. You may exile an instant or sorcery. It gives you an option, which is great. And it has enlist, and it's got 3 toughness, so that seems pretty good for 3. And you may cast it without paying. Situational, but seems okay. Runed Veld Hordemaster. 2 creature. Goblin Warrior, of course, for 2. A 1/1 for 2. Other goblins you control get 1/1. So like Goblin King, of course. Whenever Runevelt Hordemaster or another goblin you control dies, exile the top card of your library. If it's a goblin creature card, you may cast that card until the end of your next turn. Your next turn. That seems pretty good. Because like you've got 3 little goblins you attack. You might show 2 medium power goblins that you would like to play, and they can sit there, and then you draw your card. You've got all sorts of options, right? Until your next turn, the end of your next turn. Cool. Also, for the record, when I'm talking about this and all of the cards, I'm mostly draft. So normally all the cards are from the same set. So I'm comparing this to other cards in this set, and you know, all of them. Obviously, when you have a much wider range of cards like this probably become a lot better. You've got multiple copies of cards, stuff like that, but since I draft, I don't normally have that. Defiler of Instinct for 4. First strike, Phyrexian Kavu. As an additional cost to cast red permanent spells, you may pay 2 life. There's your Phyrexian again. Those spells cost 1 mountain less, blah, 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 blah. Whenever you cast a red permanent spell, Defiler of Instinct deals 1 damage to any target. Red permanent spell. Creatures, enchantments. Seems okay. It's one extra damage to something you might not be able to hit, but by turn 4, you're probably not killing things outright either, so it's probably going to go into the player or a planeswalker, right? Glowstone Infusion. Target creature gets +2/-2 until the end of turn for 1. Seems very basic. You could use it a lot of ways. You could use it to remove a small creature or to buff up your creature for extra damage. Seems good. Chaotic Transformation. Look at all those words. For 6, exile up to 1 target artifact, up to 1 target creature, up to 1 target enchantment, up to 1 target planeswalker, and or up to 1 target land. Good grief. For each permanent exile this way, its controller reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a card that shares the card type with it, puts that card onto the battlefield, then shuffles. What? Exile up to 1 target artifact. So you choose a treasure or a food or whatever, right? one creature, you choose a token from that ninja planeswalker. You know, it creates a 1/1 blue. Up to one target enchantment. I don't know, your Saga that you don't care about, or I don't know, enchantment. I don't know enough cards. One target planeswalker and or one target land. Maybe you've got a bunch of mountains, but you're trying to get more forests. For each permanent exiled this way, its controller reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a card that shares the type. So you reveal them. They don't go into your graveyard and you don't exile them. You reveal them. And then whatever you find, you put onto the battlefield. It's sort of removal against the enemy, but I feel like more people are going to use this for themselves unless there aren't additional planeswalkers and there aren't additional artifacts or something. Like, oh, you have an artifact for a combo and you've already got your combo set up, and then this is played against you when you're looking for your next artifact. It's not there. You know, maybe the treasure token is the only artifact and that the other player doesn't have any artifacts in their deck or something like that. Okay, that could be good. But you can't possibly know that unless you know their whole deck. So, doesn't work in draft. Bolton Monstrosity for 8, a 5/5 for 8. When this spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So hopefully by turn 5 you've got a 3/3, so it would cost 5, and it's trample. Radha's Firebrand for 2, a warrior. Whenever it attacks, target creature defending player controls with power less than Radha's Firebrand power can't block. So 3 seems good. For 6, it gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. This ability costs 1 less for each basic land, so it's probably going to cost 4 total, maybe 3 total most of the time. I don't know about that. Seems okay. For 3, and then a possible 2 kicker with a planes. When Keldon Strike team enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create 2 1/1 white creature tokens, soldiers. So a 3/1 comes in for 3 and possibly 2 additional soldiers. As long as it entered the battlefield this turn, creatures you control have haste. Okay, so wait, it's 5 if you want the 1/1 creature tokens. And on the turn that it enters, everybody else has haste. So if you got a planeswalker maybe that creates tokens or something, you could give those haste as well. But other than that, seems kind of meh. A 3/1 and 2 1/1s for 5 is meh, but okay. And then haste on them is okay, yeah. Jaya, Fiery Negotiator. Oh, well, speaking of a planeswalker that makes tokens, for 4 and loyalty up 1, create a 1/1 red monk creature token. For -1, exile the top 2 cards of your library, choose one of them, and you may play that card. That doesn't necessarily help unless you got a lot of mana, but I guess it would be turn 4 or 5 at that point, so hopefully you have enough. -2, choose target creature an opponent controls. Whenever you attack this turn, Jaya deals damage equal to the number of attacking creatures to that creature. So, but for 2. So you've got 3 creatures, you attack with 2 of them. You can deal 2 damage directly to a creature. Or for -8, if you get it all the way out to 8, you get an emblem with whenever you cast a red instant or sorcery spell, copy it twice to choose new targets. That's insane. That's insane. Copy it twice, so every time you cast an instant or sorcery, you cast it 3 times. Wow. But that's probably really hard to get to also. Phoenix Chick. Amazing art. Super cute, but also kind of molten and scary. Yeah, good. It's a Phoenix, it's got flying and haste, it can't block. It's a 1/1 for 1. Whenever you attack with 3 or more creatures, you may pay 2 mountains. If you do, return Phoenix Chick from your graveyard to the battlefield, tapped and attacking with a 1/1 counter on it. Oh snap. So turn 1, I hit you for 1. Turn 2, I hit you for 1 because it's got flying and haste, and you probably don't have a flyer unless you do. Well, haste doesn't matter at that point. Turn 3, you do something that kills it, right? Whatever. But on turn 2, I busted some other creature out, right? Turn 3, I attack with that creature, and I also pay 2, and the Phoenix Chick returns, and it's got a +1/+1 counter on it. So it attacks in the air for 2 this time. But that's the most you can do, I guess. It can't ever be like a 6/6 unless you buff it in some other way, but it won't come back with additional counters on it, right? It can only be a 2/2. I don't know, it still seems pretty good. Like, you could just bring it back over and over. That's the point. It's a Phoenix, right? Here's Squee. Here we go. I feel like I've heard of Squee before, but again, I could be wrong. Haste, a 3/2/2, a 3-cost 2/2, excuse me. Whenever it attacks, create a 1/1 red goblin creature that's tapped and attacking. You may cast Squee from your graveyard by paying 4 and exiling 4 other cards from your graveyard rather than paying its mana cost. Wait, what? That doesn't make sense. So you may cast it from the graveyard. So it attacks, you know, a couple times and then it dies, right? So it's in the graveyard. You can cast it from your graveyard by paying 4 and exiling 4 other cards rather than paying its mana cost. But the mana cost is 3, or does this mean, is it supposed to say by paying 4? No, that would be OP. There's no way that would ever happen. Because then it would be a Phoenix, right? 4 and exiling 4 other cards from your graveyard rather than paying its mana cost. That seems weird. Is that worded wrong, or am I dumb? You have to pay 4 and also exile 4 if you're playing it from the graveyard, right? Like, there's no other way. I don't think. But it feels like it should be 4 or exile 4 cards. But no, there's no way it could be that good. A goblin that just keeps coming back? I'm gonna have to think on this. Well, I'm gonna have to ask other people questions about this. Furious Bellow. Not to be confused with Furious Below, which is when you eat something way too spicy and then wait a couple hours. Anyway, 2. Target creature gets +3/+0 and gains first strike until the end of turn, and you also scry. It's just a way to remove something during a combat and keep whatever you're attacking with. You scry 1. Ooh, what good flavor. Minotaurs sometimes pretend to be lost in a battle rage, leading their opponents to underestimate their cleverness. That's exactly what this card does. That's cool. I wish it would say like where it's from and stuff, like if it's from a text or something. Didn't they used to do that on all the cards? Or am I just remembering that wrong? Like way back? Nah, it couldn't be like that. Never mind. Maria's Outrider for 5. It's got reach. Hooray, we got more reach. When it enters the battlefield, it deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of basic land types. So probably 2, maybe 3. A 5 that deals a little damage to an opponent. Or I guess each opponent if it's commander. Herloon, battle him. This is a great looking card. Kicker of 1 planes, but it normally costs 3. Herloon, battle him. It deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If this spell was kicked, you also gain 4 life. So you don't have to play it in like a 2-color deck. This could just be a burn spell for 3. 4 damage for 3. But if it's in a white kicker, or if it's in a white dual colored deck, you know, you could also kicker it. Goblin Picker. 2 cost 2/2, pay 1 and tap, discard a card, draw a card. Perfect. What a great basic card to have just out, allowing you the option to look for new cards. Temporal Firestorm. So that's Giant in the front. Who's that planeswalker in the back that's like, I don't know, kind of in the clouds or some junk? For 5 mana and or kicker of 1 and a plains and or 1 and a island. Choose up to X creatures and or planeswalkers you control, where X is the number of times this spell was kicked. Those permanents phase out. Temporal Firestorm deals 5 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. Yo, what a great card. You just burn the entire battlefield, right? Except you can choose to try and save some of your creatures, right? Cool. I like that junk. Is this Jaya again? The braid and cowl seems to indicate it. Lightning Strike. Classic. It deals 3 damage to any target for 2. Dragon Whelp. Flying for 4. It's a 2/3 flying. You can pay 1 and it gets +1/+0 until the end of turn. If this ability has been activated 4 or more times this turn, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Aw, dang. Well, there you go. So 3, so you can make it a 5/3. But if you make it a 6/3, you're gonna lose it. Electrostatic Infantry for 2. It's a dwarf wizard. Trample whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell. Put a 1/1 counter on Electrostatic Infantry. Seems good. Instant or sorcery. Yeah, that's cool. Not other creatures, but if you're like burning and stuff like that or whatever, this will just buff up. It's counters, right? So it also synergizes with anything that's talking about counters. Shivan Devastator. X and a red. Flying Haste, Shivan Devastator enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it. Wow. That could be... Isn't there a card that doubles for 1 turn? It doubles the mana output of every land. So I don't know how much it costs, but this could be pretty big in theory. Like turn 7, this is a 6/6 with flying and haste, but if you find a way to like push a ton of mana out somehow, I don't know how exactly. Maybe it's like every creature you control for this turn also creates 1 mana until the end of turn. Boom! I made it 10/10, you know, like something crazy. That's cool. I'm pretty sure anything with the name Shivan in it, or Shivan or whatever, is really good. Let's look. $9.18 currently on the player. Well, I guess I don't care what the extended art looks like. It probably looks like this, but a little bit more. Flowstone Kavu, or Kavu. It's got Menace. Love it. For 3, it's a 2/3, but you can buff it for 1 mountain or more to give it +1, -1 until the end of turn. G2 or Gitu Amplifier for 2, a kicker of 2 and an island. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return target creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. That is good. I like that bouncy type of stuff. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Gitu Amplifier gets +2/+0 until the end of turn. So it's a based on your spells cast. You can also return target creature. That would be turn 5 or more, probably. But, I mean, that's... If you cast it then, that's a pretty powerful card that you're returning to a hand. Or something that's been buffed over multiple turns. Sproutling Goblin, 2 mana for a 2/2 but kicker of a forest. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, search your library for a land card with a basic land type. Perfect. Shuffle it and plop it down. Oh, into your hand, excuse me. It's into your hand. And then also you can sacrifice a land to draw a card. What? Late game. You just... It feels like you wouldn't want to do that a lot, but I mean, if you got the spare mana and your cards are pretty cheap, you know, why not? Coalition Warbrute for 4, a Minotaur with Enlist and Trample, 3/4, basic, but still pretty powerful, it feels like. Mostly for Enlist. Warhost Frenzy for 3, kicker of a swamp. Creatures you control get +2/+0. If this spell was kicked, whenever a creature you control dies this turn, draw a card. Nice. Okay, that's cool. So you think your creatures, you attack knowing that a lot of them are gonna die, but you're trying to feint like you're putting in some damage. They know you got a trick, but they don't know what it is, right? You cast this, hopefully most of their blockers die, and then any of yours that die, you draw cards for that. I mean, in theory, you could draw a whole hand back, right? Hammer Hand for 1, enchant creature. When it enters the battlefield, target creature can't block this turn. Enchanted creature has +1/+1 and haste. Huh. Oh, target creature. Okay. So I'm enchanting my Goblin, and then another creature on their side, or possibly mine, but whatever, on their side can't block. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has haste. That's sick. Jaya's Firenado. Firenado is really scary. Tornadoes are scary here, so a Firenado is even scarier. It deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Scry 1. It feels like a Firenado would hit a lot of the battlefield, though. Like, wouldn't it deal more damage? But, or like to more targets, I guess. But, you know, whatever. You get to scry, and also it's 5 for 5 removal. And you can choose a planeswalker. There you go. Yavimaya Steel Crusher for 2. It's 2/2 with Enlist. There's another mechanical looking kind of wormy thing. Pay 1 and sacrifice it to destroy target artifact. Twinferno! There's Jaya and some other planeswalker, I guess. For 2, you get to choose one. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy it and choose a new targets for the copy. Sick. Or target creature you control gains double strike until the end of turn. Oh, that must be Joda. More fire? Jaya asked. More fire, Joda agreed. Cool. I like this whole card, the concept and everything. It gives you options that I feel are valuable, like double strike allows you to remove something, or allows you to deal way more damage to your opponent's face than they were expecting, or when you cast your next instant, for example, or sorcery spell. So for 7 instead of 5, you can choose another target for your this Firenado. Cool. Cool. And the Fires of Victory for 2 and a kicker of 2 and an island. If the spell was kicked, draw a card. Fires of Victory deals damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to the number of cards in your hand. Oof. That's good for blue because, you know, they're trying to card draw all the time and junk. Me personally, I'm not that coordinated. I don't normally have decks that card draw a lot because, you know, I'm not that good. But you do get to draw a card. And maybe you have 5 cards, so it deals damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to no, it would be 5 because yeah. Huh, interesting. So for 2, you could deal 5 damage, you know, because you have 5 in your hand maybe on turn 2. Or for 5, you draw a card, but maybe you only had 3, so, and this is one of them. I don't know, you deal less damage, but you get to draw a card. This doesn't seem that good unless it's played really early. Again, I could be wrong, but it doesn't seem super good. Oh, that's the end of that. We did red, and finally white. Again, I hear no one's gonna play white. I'm just kidding. I've heard white's gonna be great, so let's look at it. Agrivian or Argivian Cavalier for 3. What's interesting is this is clearly an orc. It says Orc Knight right there. Are there a lot of white orc cards? I don't think so. Red, maybe black, maybe green, but I don't know if I've seen a lot of white orc. When it enters the battlefield, create 1/1 white soldier token. So 3 for 2 different creatures, and it's got an enlist. Seems good. I mean, it's basic, but when I say seems good, I mean it seems worth paying the 3 mana. You know what I mean? Prayer of Binding for 4 flash, so you could do it at any time, even though it's an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent an opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield and gain 2 life. We're probably going to gain a lot of life in white, right? Wingmantle Chaplain for 4. It's got Defender. Seems weird. It's a 0/3. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white bird creature with flying for each creature with Defender you control. That is so strange to me. Whenever another creature with Defender enters the battlefield under your control, create a bird. A 1/1 bird. Man, am I gonna see a bunch of Defender coming? Is that what's happening? Semi-Herbalist or semi... No, I think it's Semi. Is this a reprint of a card? I feel like I had this way back in the day. It's 2. Whenever it becomes tapped, you gain a life and scry. Whenever it becomes tapped, so not necessarily attacking, if you can find another way to tap it. Demolish Faith Bonder for 2, Vigilance, 1/3, Enlist. Sick. It's got Vigilance. That's sick. Guardian of New Benalia. Oh, this must be like a town or a faith or something. For 2, it's a 2/2 with Enlist. Whenever Guardian of New Benalia enlists a creature, scry 2, discard a card and it gains indestructible until the end of turn and tap it. Huh. What if it's already tapped? It doesn't say you must tap it in order to use this. It says at the end of the text to tap it. Huh. Whenever it enlists a creature, scry 2. That's sick. And you can block with your cards from hand, basically, by giving it indestructible. But if it's your turn, you discard a card. It's already tapped if you're attacking, and it gains indestructible. I don't know. Anyway. I don't know how that's going to play out. It seems like it doesn't have the right order, but it doesn't matter. For 4, create 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. Not that good, but, you know, seems pretty normal. For 3, the Anointed Peacekeeper. I feel like I've seen this one before. More clerics in white. So they'll, of course, synergize with black clerics, I assume. Vigilance. As Anointed Peacekeeper enters the battlefield, look at an opponent's hand, then choose any card name. Spells your opponent's cast with the chosen name cost 2 more to cast. Activated abilities of sources with the chosen name cost 2 more to activate, unless they're mana abilities. What? What? So for 3, you get to look at the opponent's hand, and you can choose like their counter spells and make them cost 2 more. Or you can choose creatures that have abilities like the one that buffs the goblin or whatever and make them cost 2 more. That's nuts. Phyrexian Missionary for 2 or an additional 2, one of them being a swamp. It's lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Another cleric. Bring a cleric back for your hand. You sacrificed a cleric earlier with your black cleric, so you bring a cleric back. Wow. Synergy. Coalition Sky Knight for 4. Flying. Enlist. Seems good. I'm trying to think. Would I do clerics and green to run enlist as well and do a 3-color like cleric enlist kind of setup? I don't know. Resolute Reinforcements, 2 flash. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. You can flash it in for 2 and another creature token to block as well before you declare blockers, right? Whoops. Leaving a Skyrider. You flash this one in 2. It's a 3/2/2. 3 cost 2/2. Kicker of 3, one of them being mountains. Flying, a flash, flying, 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, it deals X damage to any target where X is the number of attacking creatures. So, oh, it wants you to flash it in and kick it on your turn. Oh, not necessarily. So let's say they're attacking with 3. Oh, that's what I meant on their turn. You flash it in for 3, you get a blocker, right? Perfect. A flying blocker, no less. But it's a 2/2. But if you pay 6 and they're attacking with 3, you get the blocker, but you also can deal 3 damage to one of their attackers, removing, hopefully, the smaller attacker. Or a big attacker. Or maybe, I don't know, something you wouldn't normally be able to block or something. I don't know. But that's cool. Benalish Sleeper. Look at that claw weapon. Weird. For 2 and an additional kicker of 1, possibly swamp. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, each player sacrifices a creature. Yikes. I mean, seems like white and black could bring back their clerics, but what's green gonna do? Or red even? If a creature has to be sacrificed. Wow. Seems like white is gonna have tokens, so that's what'll be dropped from here, I assume, on white. Denitha, Benalia's Hope. For 5, it's a first strike vigilance lifelink. When Denitha, Benalia's Hope enters the battlefield, you may put an aura or equipment card from your hand or graveyard into the battlefield attached to Denitha, which is interesting because we haven't seen any equipment or auras in colors. Maybe they're going to be multicolored, or excuse me, in monocolors, because we've only looked at monocolors, but we haven't seen these cards yet. So maybe we're going to see them in the multicolored and the colorless. I pulled those both to be separate. Or maybe this needs other sets. Juniper Order Root Weaver for 2, a kicker of 1 green. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. That's good. That plays in nice to enlist and stuff. Defiler of Faith for 5. Phyrexian. Vigilance. As an additional cost to cast white permanent spells, you may pay 2 life. There you go. There's the Phyrexian thing. Whenever you cast a white permanent spell, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. Cool. More tokens here. Valiant Veteran for 2. Other soldiers you control get +1/+1. This Phyrexian one is a soldier, but this Denitha is a knight. Wait, does it... This creates soldiers. It looks like soldiers going to be important. The warrior. This is a soldier, and this creates a soldier. Okay, cool. So other soldiers you control get +1/+1 for 5. Exile this veteran from your graveyard. Put a 1/1 counter on each soldier you control from the graveyard. It's basically another spell you can cast to give counters. It's bolster from the graveyard, right? Or not even bolster. It's I don't even know what the term is. Cool though. Shalai's Acolyte. An angel for 5. A 3/4 angel for 5 with an additional kicker of 1 and green. It has flying. If the Acolyte was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2 1/1 counters on it. So it could be a 7. Cost 5, 6 flying. That doesn't seem that good. For 4, another angel. Archangel of Wrath, in fact, which sounds cool. A kicker of swamp and or mountain. It's got flying and lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, it deals 2 damage to any target. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked twice, it deals 2 damage to any target. Okay, cool. So you can pay 6 as long as you pay 2 other colors and deal 2 damage to any 2 targets. It's okay. What is this strange mechanism? Artillery Blast for 2. Deals X damage to target tapped creature, where X is 1 plus the number of basic land types. So it'll be 2 for maybe a 3 damage or 4 damage to a tapped creature. But it's an instant, so it can happen before battle or combat damage. They tap and attack, and then you could do this. Griffin Protector. I would say this art doesn't look like everything else we've seen, right? Huh. For 4, it's a 2/3 flying. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Griffin Protector gets +1/+1. So you can buff it with all the soldier tokens. You can buff it with all sorts of stuff on your turn and then attack with it. Seems okay. For 2, you could take up the shield. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature. It gains lifelink and indestructible. The counter is good, sure, but the indestructible is the important part. Knight of Dawn's Light for 2. It's got first strike. We saw double strike from a spell, right? Earlier. Not a lot of interesting, or it's interesting, there's not a lot of additional first strikes or double strikes or whatever. If you would gain life, you gain that much life +1. For 2, it gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of gaining life The card that allowed you to gain life when you drew. Occasionally there's a couple cards that give you life if you kick for spells, right? So you gain just one additional by playing this one. Well, I guess we have seen it multiple times in every color, so that's okay. But I mean, it's a 2/2 for 2 that also has first strike. That's the important part. It's not a soldier, so it doesn't benefit from that synergy, but still, it's got first strike. It's gonna win in a equal matchup every time. An enchantment for 6 called Leyline Binding. What? It's got flash. You can cast it at any time. It costs 1 less for each basic land type. And when it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until this leaves the battlefield. So let's say you got 2 colors. It costs 4. And you can just exile something until this enchantment's removed. Destroy evil. Okay, this is why freaking white is so important. I feel like this card right here really shows. For 2, choose 1, destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater. So that's pretty basic, you know. It's just like your larger green creatures. We saw larger black creatures. There were some red ones, but the important part is destroy target enchantment. There's a saga in every color, right? There's this enchantment right here in white that exiles something until this leaves. Like, this card destroys many cards, not many, several cards from every single other color. And the other colors don't necessarily have this. They can't get rid of enchantments. It doesn't seem like they can counter them, or they can bounce the creature to exile and bring it back, but they can't really target enchantments, it doesn't seem like. Maybe we'll see those in multicolor, but I think that if this is what the white set is, like, based around this, it's targeted against everything else, you know? Play mono white, sure. I hear that's going to be a thing. Here's Sarah Paragon. We looked at it earlier. Flying. Once during each of your turns, you may play a land from your graveyard or cast a permanent spell with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard every turn. If you do, it gains. When this permanent is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, exile it and gain 2 life. So this synergizes with gaining life, synergizes with milling, it synergizes with just losing cards, you know, over time. Creatures or land even. There was one card that allowed you to destroy land, so this will bring it back. But yeah, milling and gaining life and all that stuff. Wow. And a value 3 or less. Let's say you played that soldier that gives you a token, additional soldier. Bring it back. If it dies, that's fine. You gain 2 life. Like, freaking, and you got the token again because you played it. Wow. Seems really good, and that's why it's so expensive. Charismatic Vanguard for 3 is a 3/2, and then for 5, creatures you control get +1/+1 until the end of turn. It's soldier. It seems like soldier white is the way to go. Add in some knights. Boom. Beautiful. Urza assembles the Titans. What a name. For 5, you could scry 4. Then you may reveal the top card of your library. If a Planeswalker card is revealed this way, put it into your hand. Like you're scrying, so you're controlling it, right? You may put a Planeswalker card with mana value 6 or less from your hand onto the battlefield the second time. And then on the third one, you may activate the loyalty ability of Planeswalkers you control twice this turn rather than only once. This card's insane! It's so Planeswalker focused. Like, what the heck? And the fact that you can read ahead means for 5, you could play this enchantment. Boom. And you can choose to go to the second one. put a planeswalker card with mana value 6 or less from your hand on the battlefield. So you play your planeswalker. It's Jaya. You +1 immediately, right? You get the little goblin. Perfect. Then next turn, you may activate the loyalty abilities of planeswalkers you control twice. You could +1 again, and then do whatever the -2 is that I can't remember. And you did it for free. Like, you didn't pay any mana to do that, except for this 5. That's nuts. You could play a turn 6 planeswalker on turn 5 with this. Or you could scry and play 2 6 value cards on turn 6 because you're playing the planeswalker for free. Amazing. And another saga. For 3, you and an opponent each draw 2 cards. I don't want to do that. I don't like giving my opponent cards. On the 2, you can create a 1/1 white bird creature token with flying. And for on the third one, put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. This one's way less powerful than this. How much is this? Let's look. Does everyone else think this is great? There's a symbols. Titans. $2. No one else thinks this is amazing. What? How much is Jaya? Is it this one? So Jaya only costs 4, right? I know there's another one in here. It's Ajani. Let's see which one it is, though. Oh. I'm just looking to see how much Ajani costs mana-wise. I got relevance. Where are you, Ajani? Here you are. Okay, so Ajani costs 4, but it's plains and forests and possibly Phyrexian, right? So, like, you play 5, right? You spend this 5 and you go to this one. You play a planeswalker card with mana value 6 or less from your hand. Cool. Like, you play Ajani, but what if you only have white mana at that point? You don't need 2 forests or a forest and life in order to pay this. You save, technically, having to search for the forest or whatever. That seems so good. I don't know why other people don't think it's good, but oh geez. Other people definitely know more than me, so definitely watch out for other people, listen to other people, talk to other people, because they know way more than me. Anyway, this one doesn't seem that good. For 3, temporary lockdown, topical. When temporary lockdown enters the battlefield, exile each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less until it leaves the battlefield. Each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Imagine this versus goblins or elves. Oh, that's so messed up. 3, stall for time. This art looks interesting. It looks like a, I don't know, like a Digimon or some junk that they're battling. But anyway, a kicker of 1 in an island. Tap up to 2 target creatures. If the spell is kicked, put a stun counter on each one so they don't untap when they should untap. And you draw a card. So for 3, you tap 2 creatures no matter what. And then draw a card. I think that's good for a common card. For 3, Mesa Cavalier, flying. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life. It's a 2/1. It's a knight. It doesn't synergize with the soldiers, but you gain 2 life. And it's got flying. Flying's the important part. We've seen a little bit of reach and we've seen a little bit of flying in other places, but it seems like white has the most flying. Join forces for 3. Untap up to 2 target creatures. They get +2/+2 until the end of turn. Oh, okay. So this is like for defending, I guess. You know, they're attacking, they think you got nothing, but you have the mana open, so you untap 2 creatures and you give them +2, and then you block their junk for 1, or an additional kicker of 1 island. Destroy target tapped creature. If the spell is kicked, scry 2. Always gotta be scrying, blue. Destroy target tapped creature. Oh, like a 1 mana destruction of a creature seems good. I think this would lure me into using it really early. Yeah. Because it's so cheap, I would probably use it too early when I should wait until someone's just attacked me. Because it is a sorcery. It's not an instant, but you know, you can remove something big. Maybe you blocked with a soldier token. And then it's your turn. You can destroy that thing for 1 mana. Seems good. Seems good. Argivian Phalanx for 6. This spell costs 1 less for each creature you control. Okay, that's dope. That's dope. It's a soldier. Vigilance 4/4. If you've got 3 soldiers, even if you played just right before this, you played the 1 soldier that brings in a token. You got 2, it costs 4 for 4/4, and it's a vigilance. Yo, come on, come on. Clockwork Drawbridge, another defender, so weird. But it only costs 1 for 0/3, and for 3 and a tap, you can tap target creature. So I guess you could lock down their attackers every turn with this, which is, I guess, why it's a drawbridge, right? You choose somebody can't get across to you. Heroic Charge, very flavor synergistic with everything else. For 4, or a kicker of 1 in a mountain. Additional creatures you control get +1, or excuse me, +2/+1 until the end of turn. If the spell was kicked, those creatures also gain trample until the end of turn. That's nuts. So if you use it for defense, it costs 4, 2/1, perfect. Or if you're attacking, haha, we got trample. Get wrecked, son. That's cool. Citizen's Arrest. I call Citizen's Arrest for 3. When it enters the battlefield, exile target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. Wow, this could target planeswalkers too. Oh, you got a Johnny? You got Jaya? Wow. I Citizen's Arrest it. Ta-da. Right now in Arena, I don't know anything about it because I don't really have all the cards or any of that junk, but there is a deck that plays into the citizens themselves, and this seems to be targeted at that, like adding it, so that's cool. You like buff all your citizens and you give them like citizen briefcases and I don't know, crowbars or something, and now you can arrest planeswalkers with those citizens too, even though you don't need them for this. That's funny though. That's cool. All right, let's go into multicolored and see if I'm right about what we're gonna see there. I would assume that multicolor is gonna have the best cards, right? Or maybe we should do colorless first. Let's do colorless first. So here's the equipment that I was saying, like, oh, we haven't seen any equipment. It's because it's colorless. Of course, it's artifacts. There are no colored equipments in this set, I guess. An axe. Creature gets +2/+0. Equip it for 2. It costs 3 to put it directly onto something, you know, but obviously you have to cast it onto the field first. Pretty basic. An heirloom, 2. Equipped creature gets +2/+1. As long as it is legendary, it has trample and haste. They really want you to have legendary stuff. Maybe equip for 2. And then we have Karn, a planeswalker with no color identity. For 4, you plop him down. For 1 loyalty, you create a tapped Power Stone, which can... It's an artifact with tap, add 1 colorless. This mana can't be spent to cast a non-artifact spell. Huh. seen spells that include artifacts and tap artifacts and stuff, so this plays into that. But you really want to have artifacts and stuff in order to use those. Or -1, pay any amount of mana, look at that many cards from the top of your library, then put one of those cards into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You can't even use the Power Stones for that, it doesn't seem like. -7 loyalty. You get an emblem with tap an untapped artifact you control. The emblem deals 1 damage to any target. So, okay, you start at 4. Let's say you go up 4 more with these artifacts that you can't, like in your deck, for example, you don't have any artifact spells or maybe only a couple. But you got these 4 Power Stones. You do the -7 to get an emblem that says tap an untapped artifact to deal 1 damage to any creature. You could deal 4 damage, right? Like you can use that emblem multiple times. So you tap all those Power Stones, you deal 4 damage. Ding, 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 ding. Every turn in theory. Or you can continue to create them afterwards too, I would assume. Yeah. A defender, interesting. For 4, it's a 1/3 defender. When shield wall sentinel enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a creature card with defender, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle. Weird. Another defender, a 1-cost 0/3 golem. For 2 until the end of turn, target creature with defender gains haste, can attack as though it didn't have defender, and assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Activate only as a sorcery. Clearly this is how you get those walls to actually be valuable, right? Those stupid defender walls that didn't seem to make sense. This is the way. For 5, you got a meteorite. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any target. That's cool. But it adds 1 mana of any color. Seems pretty basic. A metal worker for 2. Pay 1 and add 1 mana of any color. Activate only once each turn. It's not a wall. 1, an inscribed tablet. Or it costs 1, excuse me. For an additional 1 on the card and tap it, sacrifice the tablet, reveal the top 5 cards of your library, put a land card from among them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If you didn't put a card into your hand this way, you draw a card. So you either get mana into your hand that maybe you really need, or you draw a card. Okay. Cool. Golden Argosy. This is one of the cards I spoiled earlier for myself. I thought, oh wow, maybe this set is going to have a lot of like mythology kind of stuff to it, and I didn't really see that when looking through it. I thought, oh, Argosy, kind of like Argonauts, you know, those myths, legends, and stuff. And unless I don't know anything, I don't think we really saw that in the sets, the colors that I've seen. Anyway, for 4, it's a vehicle. Whenever Golden Argosy attacks, exile each creature that crewed it this turn, return them to the battlefield tapped under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Interesting. So I crew it with any soldier or any creature really, because almost all of them except the walls have power of 1 or more. And it becomes an artifact creature until the end of turn. A 3/6, and then turn them to the battlefield tapped. So, okay, just in theory, that soldier, that 2/1 soldier that creates a soldier token when it enters the battlefield, you use that to crew this. It exiles, which, regardless of what exile should mean, what it really means is it leaves the battlefield, then it returns to the battlefield tapped. So you get another soldier every single time, right? Every time you crew this, even if you didn't attack. That seems good. Joda's Codex for 5, Domain, an additional 5, and a tap, draw a card. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each basic land type you control. So it's a mana sink. It's probably going to be 3 and tap, maybe 2 and tap, and gain and draw a card. Weatherlight Completed. I made fun of the spelling, and then I learned that that was part of the set. There's more completed stuff, but it costs 2. It's a legendary vehicle. As long as it has 4 or more Phyresis counters on it, it's a Phyrexian creature in addition to its other types. Whenever a creature you control dies, put a Phyresis counter on the Weatherlight Completed, then draw a card if it has 7 or more counters on it. If it doesn't, scry 1. So it costs 2. It's a wait, you can't crew it, right? You can't just crew it normally? I don't see that anywhere on here. As long as it has 4 or more counters on it, it's a creature. But normally, so you can't even block with it. You need 4 creatures to die in order to use this, right? I think? That seems kind of dumb. Why would you have a vehicle you can't crew? I don't know. TCG currently has this at $6. Is it good? And I don't understand. It only costs 2. Okay, so yeah, I guess the thought is you play it on turn 2 or something early, right? And then it just chills and sits around. It's like a threat that will eventually come about, right? It's not a creature yet. It's not a threat yet, but you know, while you battle and stuff, this is just sitting here gaining counters, and then whenever a creature you control dies, so your 2/1 creature dies, you put a counter on this, and then you draw or you scry for multiple other creatures, and then once it's 4, this one can attack and block, and once it's 7, you get to draw cards. Guess that's good. To me, it sucks to be playing something that might not ever come about, you know, like, well, but if you lose the game without losing 4 creatures, that kind of sucks too, so this wouldn't matter. I guess. Timeless Lotus. I hear this is amazing. I don't know. It costs 5. When it enters the battlefield tapped, and then you can tap it for any color of mana. Sick. Like, the random colors is great. It costs 5, so that kind of sucks, but being able to get the island you need for, like, you only have 1 island, but you need a second one for a second card or a second spell, or maybe your card has 2 island icons on it, but you've only been able to find 1 for some reason. Like, this is super helpful, but I don't know, it just feels like it sucks. I know it doesn't. I know it's good, but I don't know. It feels that way to me. 3 for the Relic of Legends, an artifact, tap for 1 mana of any color. Tap an untapped legendary creature you control to add 1 mana of any color. An untapped legendary creature. So, stuff you're not going to attack with that is doing stuff on the battlefield. Let's see if it's a legendary artifact. It's not a legendary creature until it has 4. So you can't even do that one. But, I mean, this seems okay because, you know, you're getting the mana of the color you want, but wait. Whoa, this is way better. Okay, I understand. This is way better. You pay 5, you tap this to add 5 mana. That's way better. Wow. Okay, I understand this card. This is why I'm doing it, okay? This is why I'm talking through the cards. Okay. Add 1 mana of any color. This one adds all 5 colors. 3, the automatic librarian. It looks good. Oh, I like that it's small. Like, you can't really tell it's small, but there's people right here. That's cool. When it enters the battlefield, it's cry 2. It's a 3/2. I like how it looks. I hope I get it just to have it, but I don't know if I would play it, except scrying's really good. I always undervalue scrying, but it's really good. Karn's Silex for 3. It enters the battlefield tapped. Players can't pay life to cast spells or to activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. This is the thing that shuts down all the Phyrexian abilities and all that stuff. X and tap. Exile this. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value X or less. Activate only as a sorcery. That is scary. This thing's super good, it feels like. It's, like I said, it's a threat. It's a constant threat. That's cool. All right, let's go into the multicolored. We already looked at lands, yeah. So I think that these multicolor cards are going to be much better than most of the stuff we've seen so far. And I think that's because of the complexity. Like, you have to have 2 different colors in order to play this. No matter how you got there, you had to draw, you had to play, you had to find whatever. 2 different colors or 3 different colors or all the colors or some junk. But like, am I wrong? Are multicolored cards not generally better? I don't know. We've got King Darian. I don't know enough Roman numerals to know what number that is. I'll be honest. I don't know what the L is. Anyway, it's a legendary creature, human soldier. We saw legendaries referenced earlier where you could tap them, and they came up earlier in that other card that I think was a spell. Anyway, this is a soldier, so the cards that synergize with soldiers are going to synergize with this, but he also says any other creatures you control get +1/+1. So not only are your soldiers gaining from the other soldier, but from this as well. You could pay a 5 to put a 1/1 counter on Darian and create a soldier, which will of course get +1/+1. Then you could sacrifice him, and creature tokens you control gain hexproof and indestructible until the end of turn. I don't think you would ever want to do that unless someone played like board wipe and you had like five soldiers or some junk. But yeah, this seems good. Queen Alinal of Ruadak for 3. Queen Alinal of Ruadak's power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control, so good with soldiers and stuff. If one or more creature tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus a 1/1 white soldier token or creature token are created instead. Plus, okay. So basically every time you create a token, create an additional white soldier. That is sick. These two synergize so well. Oh geez. What the heck? How did I skip? I went to the end, my bad. All right. Mariah, Scholar of Antiquity. For 3, tap an untapped non-token artifact you control and add one forest. Tap an untapped non-token artifact. So you got those artifacts we just looked at, whether it's non-equipped stuff or whatever. And it gains, or it adds forests. Tap 2 untapped non-token artifacts you control to exile the top card of your library, and you may play it. It just allows you to look at the card. I don't think this is strong. It's a 3/3 for 3. Joyra, of course it does cool stuff, but it does stuff I don't understand too. Joyra, Ageless Innovator, 2. A 2/3. You can tap Joyra to put 2 Ingenuity counters on Joyra. Then you may put an artifact card with mana value X or less from your hand onto the battlefield, where X is the number of Ingenuity counters. This allows you to do, let's see, turn 2. turn 3. Did that let me look at this. Let me look it up. Let's see here. Timeless Lotus enters the battlefield tapped. I assume it enters the battlefield tapped even if you do this. But this allows you to play it late, turn-wise, but for free. You can only do this once because you're tapping to do this, unless you can untap Joyra and do it again to allow you to play artifacts for free. Interesting. Rat Drabik of Urbarg with an R, with 2 R's, I guess, in there. I guess 4 total. Anyway, 4 mana, Vigilance 4/2. Other zombies you control have Vigilance. We did see some zombies, not a ton though. Whenever another legendary creature you control dies, so Joyra or whoever, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's not legendary, and it's a 2/2 black zombie in addition to its other colors. But you could start doing the ingenuity counters on them as well, and then tap them to add artifacts. That seems good. Lagomos, Hand of Hatred. Not really my style, but that card looks cool. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 2/1 red elemental creature token with trample and haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step, so you're just constantly creating 2/1 attackers. You can tap Lagomos to search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle, activate only if 5 or more creatures died this turn. That's crazy. Imagine losing 5 creatures and then being like, I'm gonna look for a card. I mean, it might be the card you really need, but you lost 5 creatures. Unless they're tokens, that seems really scary. Ivy, Gleeful Spell Thief for 2. Whenever a player casts a spell that targets only a single creature other than Ivy, you may copy that spell. The copy targets Ivy. When a player casts a spell that targets a single creature other than Ivy. So like, for example, add a 1/1 counter, draw a card. You may copy that spell. The copy targets Ivy. I wonder if you draw a card again. I would assume so, right? Nemata, Primeval Warden for 4. Reach, another reach card. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it. Perfect. That's the way to get rid of the clerics and stuff. When you do, create a 1/1 Saproling creature token. For 1, sacrifice a Saproling. Wait. Sacrifice a Saproling. Nemata gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. For 1 and a swamp, sacrifice 2 Saprolings to draw a card. That seems good. I mean, you're not necessarily going to have a ton of Saprolings, but you could. You know, it's just a little extra value, so that's cool. Tori d'Avenant, Fury Rider for 4, a legendary creature knight with vigilance and trample 3/3. Whenever Tori attacks, all other attacking creatures you control get +1/+1 until the end of turn. That synergizes with soldiers and goblins and all sorts of stuff. Other red attacking creatures you control gain trample until the end of turn. Untap each other white attacking creature. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So you either get trample for your red goblins, or you get the vigilance for your white knights and soldiers. What? This card's sick. Even though it's only when she attacks, so by turn 4 there might be something that screws up I mean, they're gonna block this and kill it, you know, but there is a card that gives creatures indestructible in junk, so she might get indestructible. Urg, Spawn of Turg for 3. Its power is equal to the number of land cards in your graveyard. This is for mill, 100%. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may put that card in your graveyard. For 2, sacrifice a land, gain 2 life. Najal the Storm Runner for 5. You may cast sorcery spells as though they had flash. What? Yo, this is sick. Everything. Wait, I wonder. No, I guess that wouldn't matter. But this is sick. Like every time I get confused about like sorcery and instant and like when I can play it and stuff, as long as I have this, it doesn't matter. Whenever Najal attacks, you may pay 2. If you do, when you cast your next instant or sorcery spell, copy it, and you may choose new targets. Wow. That seems good. Baird, Argivian Recruiter. So I wonder if the Argivians or whatever that thing is, I wonder if they're another like soldier kind of faction, because we had the, oh gosh, now I can't remember, the one that starts with B. We have that one that's clearly either a religion or a nation or something, or even a world maybe. Is this another one of those? At the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power greater than its base power, which would be tokens, anything with tokens, or actually enlist probably makes this occur too, because enlist gives the power until the end of turn, right? So at the end step you check and you fix everything and then your turn ends. So enlist probably counts for this. You have to attack with that, but yeah. Create a 1/1 white soldier token. Sick. It's either going to be like white black for the clerics and the soldiers and knights, or it's going to be white red for these cards. White blue, huh? Sten for 2, the Paranoid Partisan. As Sten enters the battlefield, choose a card type other than creature or land. So enchantment, artifact, sorcery, instant. Spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. For 3, exile Sten, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Wait, this seems scuffed. It says, spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. Forever? Or just until Sten leaves the battlefield? Because this doesn't say until Sten leaves the battlefield. So I guess the point is that you can pay 3 to exile Sten and return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So on your turn, right? Then at the end, if you said instant the first time and you say instant the second time, do your instant spells not cost 2 less forever? Is that not what this does? I don't know. That seems broken. Balmor, Battle Mage Captain for 2, flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain trample. That's super good because it's all creatures. Blue-red. So you got your goblins and your flyers, right? There's a couple flyers in blue, I think, right now. Rulik Mons, Warren Chief. Cool. For 4, it's got Menace. Whenever Rulik Mons, Warren Chief attacks, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it into the battlefield tapped. So you check, it's a land, boom, tapped. If you didn't put a card onto the battlefield, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token. So you can choose, even if it is a land, you don't have to put it in onto the field, but you should. But you don't have to, that's sick. Garna, Blood Fist of Keld for 4. Whenever another creature you control dies, draw a card if it was attacking. Otherwise, Garna deals 1 damage to each opponent. Cool. Cool. Elias Ilkor, the one I looked up earlier, for 2, it's got Death Touch. Whenever another creature you control another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life. Whenever another creature you control dies, your opponent loses a life. White black soldier token seems good with this. Vohar Vodalian Desecrator for 2. Seems really cheap for a legendary, but whatever. It's a 1/2. You can tap it to draw a card, then discard a card. If you discarded an instant or sorcery, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain a life. Cool. For 2, you can sacrifice Vohar. You may cast target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard this turn. Okay. If that spell would be put into your graveyard, exile it, activate only as a sorcery. So you pay 2 to cast something from your graveyard. Maybe it's an amazing spell that you really need. You sacrifice Vohar, you pay the 2. Okay. Nael Avizoa Aeronaut for 4. An elf scout with flying. Whenever Nael deals combat damage to a player, look at the top X cards, where X is the number of basic lands. Put up to 1 of them on top of your library and the rest on the bottom in a random order. If there are 5 basic land types among the lands you control, draw a card. Wow. Soul of Windgrace. 3 color for 4 cat avatar. Whenever Soul of Windgrace enters the battlefield or attacks, you may put a land card from your graveyard onto the battlefield, tapped under your control. So it's got black. We're looking at mill here. For 1 green, you can discard a land and gain 3 life. You don't have to tap. You can just do it. For 1 and a red, you can discard a land card and draw a new card. Or for 2 and a black, you can discard a land card. Soul of Grace gains indestructible until the end of turn and tap it. Wow. So many options. They don't seem super good, but the fact that you can do so much does seem good. Sir, Eternal Schemer. For 3 different colors again. Flying, enchantment creatures you control have Death Touch, Lifelink, and Hexproof. That seems really good. I've seen a lot of the sagas right now turn into enchantment creatures, right? So this helps them. For 1 and a white, target non-aura enchantment you control becomes a creature in addition to its other types. So those enchantments we were looking at earlier that like exile stuff until it leaves, you can make them into creatures, but when you do, they become targetable as creatures too, right? Has base power and base toughness equal to its mana value. That's cool. Wait. Oh, you pay to do that. Okay. Wrath, Weatherlight, Stalwart, a wizard for 2. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you may tap to untap creatures you control. If you do, draw a card. Or for 5, creatures you control get +1/+1 and vigilance until the end of the turn. That's so good. Rith, Liberated Primeval. So this works with white blue for sure, like making the soldiers again and the knights and stuff. Wow. Rith, Liberated Primeval, a dragon for, was this 5 flying, ward 2. Other dragons you control have ward 2. I don't think we've seen very many dragons, if any. I know we saw worms and drakes, or maybe just 1 of each. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature or planeswalker an opponent controlled was dealt excess damage this turn, create a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. If you manage to give anything trample and it deals 1 think of extra damage, or no, actually, never mind on the trample. If you attack with like a 4/4 and someone blocks with a 1/1, you dealt excess damage, you create a 4/4 red dragon. Amazing. Here we have a Ajani, who is the big boss, it feels like, of this set. He's on a bunch of the like imagery and stuff. For 4, he's a planeswalker, starts at 4. For +1, you can reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature or planeswalker card, put it into your hand. Wow. Otherwise, you may put it on the bottom of your library. You don't have to, but you do have to reveal the top card. For -3, you can distribute 1/1 counters among 3 targets. They gain vigilance. Sick. Or for -6, you get an emblem. Whenever you cast a creature or planeswalker spell, target opponent gets 2 poison counters. What? So you boost this up 2. You reveal 2 cards. If they're creatures, they go into your hand. And then you can make an emblem on the third turn from playing this. So turn 7, you can make an emblem, or turn 8, if you want to keep a Johnny, you can make that emblem. Amazing. And completed, again, allows you to pay with life. Did the other one that said completed allow you to pay with life? I don't think so, right? Rona, Shieldred's Faithful for 4. Another wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, each opponent loses a life. Just think. Lose a life. You may cast Rona from your graveyard by discarding 2 cards in addition to paying its other costs. Wow. Cool. So you can bring this back. I guess because Rona is kind of mechanical in some ways, they don't, or they can come back from death. Is that a foot? Is this a body? Wait, what is this? That is a foot right there. But why is it so wide? What kind of body is this? Why does it have a weird knife thing sticking out of it? Like, what? Weird. Shauna for 3 different colors. Lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, you may pay X. If you do, you draw X cards. X can't be greater than the amount of life you gained. Huh. So if you attack with Shauna for 3, you gain 3. You can pay 3 to draw 3 cards. Nuts. As long as she survives. Yeah. Or he. Shauna. I don't know. They. Tatyova for 3. Land creatures you control have flying. Wow. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands, up to 1 target land you control becomes a 3/3 elemental creature with a haste. It's still a land. That's insane. Yo, this card's good. It's a merfolk too. Wow. Wow. Just giving everything you have flying. Even if you're playing in a set and they have, you know, 1 or 2 of the reach or 1 or 2 of the flying, if everything you have is flying, boom. Oh man, that's crazy. Czar, Ohanin or Ojanin, Scion of Efrava for 5. Domain, whenever it becomes tapped, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control with toughness less than the number of basic land types you... Whoa. So if you got your soldiers, you're bringing in little 1/1s, and you have... In order to play this, you have a forest and a plains. Whenever it becomes tapped, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control with toughness less than, so your 1/1s become 2/2s automatically. Or any, even the soldier that you played the 2/1 in order to get the 1/1 soldier token, boom, it's a 3/2. Amazing. Aaron, Benalia. Oh, that's it. Benalia is the other one I was trying to think of. Argavian or something in Benalia. Benalia is ruined, so this is an enemy of Benalia, it seems like. For 3, Menace, and then for a white and a black, you can tap, sacrifice another creature, probably a cleric or a soldier. Put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Amazing. Urtai Resurrected for 4. Flash. When Urtai Resurrected enters the battlefield, choose up to 1. You can counter a spell, because it's Flash, for 4. Activated ability or triggered ability. Oh, you can counter abilities? What? Its controller draws a card, which sucks to me, but whatever. Or destroy another target creature or planeswalker. Its controller draws a card. Wow. The ability to counter abilities is insane, it feels like. Has that ever happened before? I don't know, because I don't know any cards, but that seems incredible. Tura Kinnarood, Sky Knight for 5. Flying Knight, 3/3. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. I mean, clearly white's going to be in every deck. Oh, here's all 5 colors. Joda, the Unifier. A 5/5 wizard again. Wizards are very important, apparently. Legendary creatures you control. We've looked at a lot of them in the multicolor. Get +X+X, where X is the number of legendary creatures you control. Oh my gosh. Whenever you cast a legendary spell from your hand, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a legendary non-land card with a lesser mana value. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Wow. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If you only have one, you just like... you just exile cards until you hit a legendary. That's so funny. Astor, Bearer of Blades for 4. Another legendary, of course. When Astor enters the battlefield, look at the top 7 cards. It seems like 7 cards is a lot, but we've seen it multiple times. You may reveal an equipment or vehicle card, like we saw in the colorless. From among them, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Equipment you control have equip 1. Vehicles you control have crew 1. What? This allows you to crew that 5/5, like, without the counters. That's amazing. Wow. Rivaz of the Claw for 3. Menace. Dope. It's a 3/3 with Menace. You can tap it to add 2 mana in any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast dragon creatures. Again, we've only seen a couple, which sucks, but whatever. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a dragon creature spell from your graveyard, which is great because we're in black. Whenever you cast a dragon creature spell from your graveyard, it gains when the creature dies, exile it. So you can't keep doing it. Vortuk Bone Rattle for 6. Another shaman. We've seen a couple shamans too. It's got domain. When Vortuk enters the battlefield, if you cast it, choose target creature card in your graveyard. Return that card to the battlefield if its mana value is less than or equal to the number of basic land types among lands you control. Otherwise, put it into your hand. So you get to do it no matter what if you cast this for 6. But if it's under the domain amount, like 2 in this case minimum, then it goes onto the battlefield, or it goes into your hand. Soul Kanar, a demon, the Tainted for 5. At the beginning of your end step, choose one that hasn't been chosen. Wow. Draw a card, or each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life, or Soul Kanar, the Tainted, deals 3 damage to 1 target creature or planeswalker, or Soul Kanar exile Soul Kanar, return it to the battlefield under an opponent's control. That is terrifying. You get 3 turns, and then on the 4th turn at the end step, you give this card to the other person. Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. If it's your commander, oh, that sucks. What a crazy card. Radha, Coalition Warlord. I think we saw a card that referenced Radha before, right? For 4, domain, when it becomes tapped, another target creature you control gets +X/+X until the end of turn, where X is the number of basic land types. Yeah. All right, that's it for multicolored. That's what an amazing set. Like, wow. I'm glad I went through them all. Whoops. So that card that allows you to crew a vehicle for 1, this is a vehicle. Like, no matter how you look at it, this is a vehicle. So that card being on the field as well allows you to crew this for 1. You pay 2, and then whatever that one costs, I think it's 4, and then you could just crew this. You don't have to wait until stuff dies. Obviously, you want to keep putting the counters on it as stuff dies, but you don't have to with that other card. Amazing. I think white's going to be played in everything. I think everyone's saying that, and this is no surprise coming from me. I think what I'm going to look to do is try and do white and another color I'm going to hopefully play 3 pre-release events on 3 different days. It seems like white's going to be really important, and even though I normally want to, you know, mix things up or whatever, I think I'm just going to be like, I'll play white and black this time, I'll play white and green this time, I'll play white and blue this time, and try and test them out that way. But I think white's so important and Soldier's so strong that I think everyone's going to be playing white, honestly, and if they've looked at the cards ahead of time. And like I said, I think everyone's said that. I think white is so strong. Creatures, especially in pre-release and like draft stuff settings, are so important that if you can make more of them, it just powers everything else, right? It powers your clerics. It powers, it gives you targets for the +1/+1 triggers. It allows you to crew vehicles. It does so much stuff that those soldiers are just going to be amazing. Unless I open a bunch of stuff and don't get any of those cards, and then I'm going to be kind of bummed. But there are some cards in the sets that, you know, my style is to take creatures from other people, so I'm going to be looking for those for sure, and hopefully trading for them or getting them at some point. But yeah. What else do I think? I think Ajani has a really low emblem and starts at 4, you know, going to 6 is insane. I think Jaya is really strong on all 4 options. I think she has 4. I think that all the multicolor cards are much more interactive, much more powerful than the monocolored cards, which sucks. Like even the rare or mythic rare basic colors, you know, some of them are less powerful, it feels like, than the multicolor cards that we saw here. And I don't think it should be that way. I think there should be multicolored, more basic cards, you know, like that aren't amazing. And I'm not saying all these multicolored cards are amazing and junk. They just seem more powerful, and they should be, because you're paying more, you know, you're paying 2 different types. It's harder to get. I understand, but I don't know. It'd be cool to just see some really basic kind of, you know, multicolored cards. Like even the one that just cost 1, what was it, 1 white and 1 blue? It seemed really good. It's so cheap, you know. Turn 2, in theory, you could do that, especially if you get a bridge or one of the shock lands or whatever. So, you know, boom, I played this legendary on turn 2. All right, it's amazing. Instead of I play this really cool looking 2-color card on turn 2, it doesn't do amazing things. It's just multicolor. I think that's a good thing. I think. And I'm again, I don't know enough about cards. I don't know enough about all this stuff. I'm sure they exist. I'm sure they're all over the place, and I've never seen them. But just in the cards we looked at, it feels like all the multicolor is really strong compared to the equivalent in other colors or in monocolors. I don't like Kicker, personally. I would rather have Morph. I think it's better for my play style, but Kicker clearly is a thing that they want for this set. Domain and Kicker, and Kicker just gives you more options. Like, you're probably gonna play in at least 2 colors, right? So you might as well kick in that second color and be able to do cool stuff with your cards. Domain seems kind of lame to me. Some of the amazing cards have amazing value from Domain, especially the one that does 2 times the Domain, but all the Domain stuff just seems kind of meh. Like, I'm not a good enough player to play, like I said earlier, 3 colors or higher. I think I have to stick to 2 in order to assure that all of my cards have the mana that I'm going to need. Obviously, if I get a Timeless Lotus or whatever the amazing mana types are that give, you know, any colors, you know, on whatever card, whether it's a creature or whatever, then sure, you know, maybe I could play 3, but even just one Timeless Lotus, you gotta wait until turn 5 probably to play it, and then it comes in taps, so you gotta wait till turn 6 to use it, and then you can cast maybe some card that you haven't gotten the right thing for, the right mana for. So that just seems too late. I'll be crippled personally. I'm not good enough at creating a deck like that, so I'm going to be searching for I'm going to be searching for 2 colors, very synergistic. I want to play with stuff, probably not the Phyrexian stuff with mana. Like, I worry that I spend too much of my mana when I can. You know, early on it seems so good. Like, oh, I cast this spell for 2, and then I cast this spell for 2, and I cast this spell for 2. But when you're down at 4, you know, if you had those 6 back, oh, you'd feel a lot safer. Although you haven't lost even at 4, so I don't know. Anyway, these are my thoughts. I just think, no, good luck to everyone who's trying to get amazing cards. Anyone who's going to pre-release or it doesn't know, if you looked at all this, if you listen to me for this freaking long and you have your own thoughts and stuff, feel free to give them to me. That's fine. I don't know anything, but I am going to try and win games at pre-release. Like, the goal is to try and win. So definitely hit me up with some tips. If you don't know if you should go to pre-release, you for some reason listen to someone who doesn't know all this stuff, and then now you're listening to me go, all right, that's it. Well, my urge is to go to pre-release. I've been to them before. They are amazing. Everyone's all hyped. A lot of people don't know what's coming. You know, they've never seen the cards before, or even if they have, nobody really knows, like, oh, this is the meta. You know, nobody's actually played through it all unless they printed out the spoilers and played with them. So definitely check it out. It's a lot of fun. People get really hyped. Shops are packed, you know, like, be safe, definitely, and take all the precautions you need or want. But personally, I think, you know, you should go. Yeah. Or if you got friends and you don't want to go to the pre-release, or you don't think you should, or something like that, even if you want to go, you can buy the pre-release packs and then just pre-release it at home and make a deck and play with someone else, your dad or your friend or something, and just make a deck and play like that. So I think pre-release is amazing. You don't necessarily need to spend a bunch of money to buy a bunch of packs. You just buy the pre-release pack and then go, or play, or have fun. Just have fun. Yeah, that's what everyone says all the time. It's a game, right? Have fun. I don't know about Arena. I don't know if you should buy packs on Arena. I don't really super support Arena, even though I've been playing it a bunch to try and learn and all that stuff. For learning, it's great. The free decks seem pretty good. There is free stuff, so I guess, yeah, I support the free parts of Arena, and I'm not sure about the paid parts of Arena. So, question marks there. Yeah, like I said, if you got thoughts, if you saw something that I read wrong, if you could explain literally anything to me that I messed up, that would be wonderful. I'm probably going to go through the cards again just by myself and think about them, or look over stuff, try and figure things out, because like I said, I want to play to win. And I want to be competitive. I don't always play that way. Like, I'm not super competitive normally, even though I always want to win. I don't spoil stuff normally, but I think it will be fun to try my best and see what I'm capable of, you know? So I'll let you know what happens. Yeah. And from now on, have a wonderful whatever. I'll see you next time. Whatever I'm doing in the future, I don't know, but hopefully I'll see you there. Thanks for chilling. Yeah. Good night. Good luck. Goodbye. See who's on. We'll go to Dungeons and Dragons, right? That's where we should go all the time. And again, thanks for chilling with me. I know this is a pretty dry, pretty boring kind of topic, just going over all the cards and stuff, but no, I appreciate just chilling and stuff. Thank you very much. Bye.